Begin the Clovis City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order. Thank you all for participating tonight. We'll start with the flag salute, and I'll invite Councilmember Pierce to lead us in the flag salute. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baskel. Here. Councilmember Bessinger.
Here.
Councilmember Monutla.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce. Here. And Mayor Ashbeck.
I'm here. So first tonight we have two presentations and proclamations. Let me just hold a minute. Are there lots more of you out in the foyer or staff? How are we doing with the?
We did turn on speakers out in the outside as well.
Okay. Are you all okay out there? All right. We'll start with two presentations and proclamations. The first is a presentation of some certificates recognizing students for participating in the American Legion Boys and Girls State Program. If you want to join us up here at the microphone. Do you have any of these young people with you? Oh, yes, yay. Brave soul that you are, on the second week of school. Councilmember Bessinger is going to, well, I didn't know what you were going to read all of a sudden. I was like, well, wait, are you going to read anything? But we have proclamations, and I think, are you Anthony? So you're going to start with some comments, but I don't think you have a particular proclamation, do you? All right. Anthony, please. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council members for letting us be here today. We appreciate it. Appreciate your support. My name is Anthony Aguilar. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I am a 1989 alumni of Boys State, and I am also a member of the local American Legion Post 147. I would like to present the 50th inaugural session of Boys State. It's 50 years, and this is the first new of the 2023 Boys and Girls State that participated and represented Clovis Unified School District in Sacramento. These delegates were among the top students of their schools, and the GPAs were anywhere between 4.1 and 5.0.
Me too.
With these delegates, they were also heavily involved in extracurricular activities, such as basketball, golf, speech debates, and oratoricals. We had 915 attended this year in Sacramento, and there were 610 boys and 305 girls. So that was a real accomplishment this year for being the first time. I would also like to mention, and this is just a side note, that we also select delegates, alternate delegates, and even those delegates were also Clovis Unified School District with a minimum of 4.0, and also heavily involved in extracurricular activities. And I'd like to thank their parents and also Clovis Unified for all their dedication that they have put into these kids. I'm not sure if you want me to read the delegates' names now, or should I just? Councilmember Bessinger can read the names for you. Dan, did you want to comment? Sorry, this is the. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Jean Sinopoli. I am a member of American Legion Auxiliary Unit 147 here in Clovis, and I have been our Girl State Chairman for probably 25 years. I want to thank you, first of all, for recognizing our young ladies every year. Our program is completely separate from the American Legion program. It is strictly a girls program. We had 450 young ladies attend this year at Sacramento State, and they also have to qualify. We look for young ladies who not only have the grade point average, but we look at them for personality and ambition. And they all have that, believe me. They're all excellent students. They all participate in extracurricular activities, sports, volunteerism, and those are the things that we look for. I don't know if there's any of my young ladies here tonight because I couldn't get back out into the lobby. It's pretty packed. again, I appreciate your support and your recognition of these young ladies. Thank you.
Is it working? Is it working now? Is there any young women from Girl State out in the far reaches of our breezeway? Please make your way in here. But thank you both for what you do to encourage the next generation, because Lord knows we need help. So it's up to you, young man. Would you like to make a few comments? Sure. Would you give us your name, please?
Yeah. There we go. My name is Colby Kirk. I was the representative from Buchanan High. Excellent. And yeah, during my time up there, I served as the city attorney for Reagan City in Dunn County for Boise State. For those that don't know, it's run off of a sort of, state, city, county government, but on a lot smaller scale. Now, granted, I was the only person who applied for city attorney, but... Sometimes it goes that way, right, Scott? Yeah, sometimes.
Scott might be willing to have you help out tonight if you'd like some help.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'd just like to say it was a great experience, and I'd heavily recommend it to anybody who would want to apply.
Yeah, thank you so much for thank you so much for being here. So, yeah, Councilman Bester, why don't you read the names of the participants, and then Anthony, we will give you the certificates to distribute, and when you hear your name, come on up, and we'll give you yours directly. Okay? Go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. As a member of the American Legion Post here in Clovis, I'm very proud to do this. We have a certificate of recognition for Colby Kirk.
Yay!
From Buchanan High School. Isabel Zaragoza, Clovis West. Neil Shaw, Clovis North. Kevin Marquez, Clovis West. Sydney Brown, Clovis North. Madeline Ryan, Clovis East. A pretty good spread here. Paige Metzler, Buchanan. And Alma Garvey, Clovis West.
Colby, have you always wanted to have your picture taken with the Clovis City Council? Say no. Come on. Where's our photographer? Chad. This is what you always wanted, huh? That never crossed most people's minds. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mayor, if I can add one more thing,
Of course.
if that's okay?
Of course.
If more of the kids were here, I would kind of go towards them, but there's a model that I wanted to present to them that I kind of use, and there's 5 of them. Encourage others by participating in stewardship. Encourage others by extending friendship. Encourage others by building partnership. Encourage others by developing leadership. And encourage others by building relationships. So that's what I wanted to give to the kids, that they can move on in life. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, may we all live by that motto, actually. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Our next proclamation is declaring September 2023 as National Service Dog Month. I think you've got
Okay. I think I understand Cindy, Tracy, and Skylar are here with their canine companions. If go to the front up here. I want to see all of you.
And I've already asked, no, you can't pet them. Darn it. And I already asked, and no, they won't come sit up here with us. I've asked both of those questions already.
I will go ahead and read the proclamation, and then after that, if Cindy, Tracy, or Skylar, if you guys would like to say a few words, please, we would love to hear what you have to say. Okay, this is declaring September as National Service Dog Month. Whereas we believe in the joyful, transformative power of the human canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens. And whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited training programs exist nationwide, and the need is growing. And whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained service dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships. And whereas Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. And whereas National Service Dog Month aims to educate our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting them, and whereas the City of Clovis continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens and their service dogs are embraced, now therefore be it resolved that the Clovis City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Clovis, does declare September as National Service Dog Month, and is signed on this 5th day of September by our Mayor, Lynn Ashbeck. So, congratulations.
Would anyone like, oh yeah, please make a comment. Oh, you're welcome, thank you. May you all be that brief. Did you get that? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tracy McFiggin, and this is my daughter, Skylar McFiggin, and her service dog, Farina. And over here we have Cindy, who is a puppy raiser with her puppy that she's currently got in training, which is Lenny. And we just want to thank you on behalf of Canine Companions for acknowledging the whole month of September as National Service Dog Month, and for acknowledging Canine Companions for the work and the tremendous freedom that they give the recipients. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of us, that we really do appreciate it. Canine Companions is a nonprofit, and they supply these dogs free of charge for the people that do qualify. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. To make a comment, Drew, you want to talk to one of the dogs, or you look quite interested?
Who's a good boy?
Oh. Okay, meeting adjourned. We can't top that. Thank you both for being here and helping us understand the value. We all love our dogs, but these are special for sure. Thank you so much.
Come up and get your proclamation.
Thank you so much. All right, next up is public comments. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to address the City Council on items that are within our jurisdiction, but not on the agenda tonight. And I will note for the record that we have 55 public comment letters. 2 of them were on items not related to agenda item number 20. So we'll leave it at that, but we do have quite a few here today. So does anybody have anything that is not item 20 or any other agenda item that we have on our schedule tonight? All right, I'll take that as a no. Anybody online?
No.
All right. Next up is ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance, and unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading shall be deemed waived by unanimous consent of the council. Consent calendar, these are items that are routine in nature. We act on them with one motion, one action, unless a council member or somebody from the public wants to pull an item. So, I don't see, I think you wanted to pull item
7.
Okay, so, and that's you, John, city manager?
Yes.
All right, so we'll, request to pull item number 7. Council, anybody have any items to pull?
No.
Anyone in the public or online have a consent calendar item they'd like to hear read separately? All right, seeing none, entertain a motion for the consent calendar with the exception of item number 7.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar item with the exception of item number 7.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Other discussion? All those in favor of the consent calendar with the exception of item number 7 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7 is from the administration. It's amending the 23-24 Planning and Development Services budget and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Clovis Rodeo Association for city use of rodeo ground facilities. John?
I was just going to pull that item, and I was going to continue it to next week. There's some adjustments I need to make to the staff report that came up after the agenda packet was published.
Okay. Questions for John? Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on that item? Online? Do you need a motion to continue to a date certain, or Scott?
You don't need it. I mean, assuming John can bring it back next week, but if it's 2 weeks or whenever, I mean,
It'll be back next week.
All right, so we'll bring that item back next week. Item number 7 back next week. All right, moving on. The first item is under administrative items. These are regular matters on our city council agenda, and the first are various amendments to the City of Clovis Municipal Code related to code enforcement. These are 5 actions that the 3 council members that were present last meeting, council members Pierce, Ashbeck, and Wanatua took, but they require a second hearing because we did not have a full council. So I am going to read them aloud, and we can hear any of the items if you have questions on any of the items, or we can just take an action. Is that correct, Scott? Does that work? So under the amendments to the municipal code, they were as follows. Amending section, stay with me. Amending section 5.22-07 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to marijuana penalties and enforcement. Item B, ordinance 23-07, amending section 6.313 of chapter 6.3 of title 6 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to unlawful dumping of garbage. Ordinance 23-08, adding section 5.27.512 to title 5 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code related to the storing, maintaining, or placing of personal property in the public right-of-way. The fourth was ordinance 23-09, amending section 5.10.06 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to the application for a massage establishment permit or outcall massage business permit. And finally, ordinance 23-10, amending section 6.5.102 of chapter 6.5 of title 6 related to the applications for water service. Each of these was voted on separately. Each of them had a vote of 3 in favor, no opposed, and 2 absent. So with that, are there any questions from council that were here or council that were not here? Drew?
First, I'd like to congratulate staff for item B, the unlawful dumping of garbage. I get a lot of emails from folks complaining about people pulling their pickup trucks, pushing their stuff onto a public street. So hopefully that will help curtail that. Item D, item E, for water service applications. And I wanted to bring this up to make sure that the record was clear about it. We can compel people to give us proper identification to open up an account. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because it's been my experience, people will say, I don't have to give you my ID, but we're entering into a service contract with them, and we need to know who they are. So if someone decides that they're not going to show their ID, we're just not going to give them water service. Okay, that's all I have.
Matt, anything?
No, I was just going to put in the record that I did review the staff report and prepared to take action tonight.
All right, thanks. Anything else from the council? Anyone from the audience wishing to comment on these items? This is the second reading of these amendments. We talked about them at our last meeting. All right, we'll close the public portion. I need individual motions for A through E when someone is inclined.
You wanted them individually?
I do.
Okay.
Please.
I will go ahead and make a motion amending section 5.22.07 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to the marijuana penalties and enforcement.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I'll go ahead and make a motion amending section 6.3.13 of chapter 6.3 of title 6 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to the unlawful dumping of garbage.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, 0 opposed.
I'll make a motion adding section 5.27.512 to Title 5 of the City of Clovis Municipal Code relating to the storing, maintaining, or placing of personal property in the public right-of-way.
Second.
Motion, there's a second on that motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor, oh wait, yes, I've lost my way already. It's only 6:22. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Sorry.
I'll make a motion amending section 5.10.06 of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to the application for a massage establishment permit or alcohol massage business permit.
Second.
It's a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And then I'll make a motion amending section 6.5.102 of chapter 6.5 of title 6 of the Clovis Municipal Code relating to the applications for water service.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion also carries 5-0. Thank you. And we will have the code enforcement update at a future meeting. We also did not do that last week so that you too could hear that. All right. With my colleagues' consensus, I'd like to switch item 20 and 19 so that you all don't have to sit through a Brown Act training unless you really want to. But that way we can do item 20, which I think most of you came to speak to, and then you're welcome to stay for the Brown Act conversation. So, council, okay? I'm sure you all won't. Nobody will rush out. So this item is regarding a letter to Fresno County regarding library concerns from the community. John, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. At the August 7th City Council meeting, during council comments, a majority of City Council directed staff to draft a letter to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. And this is regarding some of the council members having received complaints regarding the content of material being displayed in the children's section of the Clovis branch of the Fresno County Library. The recommendation with legal counsel was to bring this item back for council to reconsider it. I prepared a draft letter that is in the package for your consideration. Additionally, I did put some options together for you to consider that I'm sure there's other options out there, but just as a starter for conversation pieces, we can look at some options. Option 1 is going to be to approve the letter as written. Option 2 is going to be to amend the letter with feedback from City Council this evening. Option 3 is to not send the letter and allow any council member to draft an individual letter to the Board of Supervisors on their own letterhead. Option 4 is going to be to do nothing. Number 5 is not really an option. I threw it out there for council consideration because going forward, is it time for the Clovis City Council to consider some sort of protocol for how council conducts business? With that, we're prepared for questions, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
So just for context, I am going to own how we ended up in this moment, because in the end of that last council meeting, when the letter was suggested, I said, well, then the three of you that want to do this, sign this. And in retrospect, that was a mistake on my part. The item was not an agendized item. We took action on something that was not on our agenda. We don't let other people do that, and we really can't do that ourselves. So it's just, that's kind of the protocol question about how do you do that. So for that, I am sorry. I'm in uncharted waters here. I've never seen that in 22 years, so I couldn't think of a solution, and the one I came up with wasn't very good. So we are back here today to sort of talk about the letter is one thing, but the more fundamental question for me is how do we manage this going forward? If we're going to live in a world where we are not always going to agree, how do you use the city council letterhead? How do you use that standing that comes with it? But that's not on our agenda today. Today is the letter only. So I just want to say out loud, my intentions were great, but you know what they say about good intentions. So I apologize for that. That was not a good solution on my part. So here we are. It's agendized now to take action of some sort on this letter. So with that, I will just offer that as comments. So we don't have a staff report. Does anybody on the council may have any questions about our actions tonight? It's to revisit the letter and decide how to move forward. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? And then I think we'll open the public comment.
I'd like to say something before we open the public comment. The city manager and I exchanged some emails while I was in Germany. I told him that my opinion was that I was going to submit a personal letter once I had arrived back here and went to the library and looked at the books myself. I have to say that the Clovis library staff was very helpful. I went through about 10 books. Some of them were biographies, completely appropriate, well done. There were two books, and I'd gone back twice. There's two books. One's called It's Perfectly Normal, and the other one is Who Are You, that I would encourage people to go look at. The It's Perfectly Normal is for 10 years or older, and it's pretty graphic. I don't know that a fourth grader would be mature enough without a parent with them to have that discussion. I really think you should look at it because you might say, well, I think that needs to be sent to the adult section. I think that the other book probably needs to go to the adult section. I don't think any of these books should be banned. This is a public library. This is not a school library. On another...
Wait, hold on. I forgot. Let's go back to the voice state. I already lost it. Friendship, stewardship. I'm going to add peace. So we're not going to applaud. If we applaud after everyone that somebody says that you agree or not, we'll be here till like 3 in the morning. So this is serious local government work. So I know you're really passionate, but let's keep our applause regardless of if you hear something you like or don't like, or if you hear something you don't like, it's First Amendment and people can try. If we could just kind of keep the theatric sense, that would be really great. Sorry, I forgot to say that earlier. Go ahead.
Thank you, Glenn.
Sorry. Sorry.
For those of you who are library folks, there's a copy of Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler in the library. And some people would probably say, why is that there? Well, bad people will tell you their intentions if you listen, if you read. So it's important to have books that you don't agree with there so that at the very least you know and you're informed. I didn't find anything. There's a book called Genderqueer, which is in the adult section where, frankly, it belongs. But it should not be taken out because people have the right to read that. I think when we, and I did not see this as an action on, at least not on my part, nor any of the other council members, that we were banning books. I think that's a stretch, but I think my intention is to formulate my own letter on my own letterhead. I have pictures of, especially the one book that are pretty graphic. And I think any parent or grandparent who looks at this would probably say, I don't really think my fourth graders should be looking at this. Junior high, maybe. I would prefer that my child, and I've raised two, and I have grandchildren, that they learn with the assistance of their parents with a book like this, because actually it's very informative, but it's not the book for a 10-year-old. And in my personal opinion, as my opinion as a parent. And that'll be the opinion that I send forth to the Board of Supervisors once I formulate my response. That's all I have.
Thanks, Drew. Anyone else before we open the public comment?
Yeah. I think with regards to the library issue, I'll wait for the public to respond first, but I want to talk about the process itself in that, so does this mean moving forward, all letters written will come back, whether we oppose, agree to where, because there's been where we oppose something to the state and it kind of just came in public comment, we all kind of, not public comment, council comment, we agree and then it just goes and you write and it's done. So I want to understand that so that way we know moving forward, because it makes it now where if we agree, you're going to have to bring it back in the next meeting to put on the agenda. We look at the actual letter, and sometimes those letters are deadline letters where we're agreeing with the League of Cities on a measure. So I want to understand that so that way we know how to move forward.
Can I give it a shot? So I think that's the question we don't have the answer to. We need to establish what that process is. I think if it was a deadline letter, we could direct staff to send it themselves, and John could sign under his own signature. But I think the question before us is, we've never found ourselves in this circumstance. So we either put it on the agenda and we act on it in a public session and we say, yep, all in, write the letter, or we don't, or if two people want to write a letter, you do it independently. So we don't have a protocol. So we need to create the process. That is not our agenda item tonight. Yeah. Tonight is just the letter. But that is something we don't have. We've never really needed that in this space, but we need it today. So we will develop a protocol and figure out how to do that.
And I think, Scott and John, to that analysis, then I think we need to also analyze our proclamations, because in it, it says the city council on behalf of the citizens of Clovis agreed to whatever. And I looked at, you know, even our resolutions, those show at least the ayes, the noes, and the absent, the abstain, but it still says the city of Clovis, and it could be a 3-2 vote. So if you can help clarify actions we take, because I know that it wasn't a formal action, but we've taken action in council comments, which we have taken action on, and it has been a decision of the council. So that's why I'm not, either way is fine, as long as it's established, and help look at that so that way we know how we move forward. Because to give us 4 options, it means even if council agrees, one can create where we have an option of a letter in the future, in which we have to bring it back. So I don't want that to keep happening, so if we can establish something concrete moving forward. And then, John, with regards to item 5, is that for a future date, or is that not for discussion tonight, or?
It's not for discussion tonight.
Okay.
I mean, what I would be looking for is if that's something you wanted to entertain. We've done these over the past 20 years 4 or 5 times and had City Council take a look at protocols, and the decision was made to not do the protocols. And generally speaking, these protocols are sort of written in blood. When something goes bad, you develop protocols to how to deal with these types of things going forward. So we've got draft protocols that I put together over the past 10 years that I can, and putting that on the agenda would be a good opportunity for council to have that discussion.
Okay. That's questions I had.
All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with both Drew and Vong on what they said and be very clear that this issue itself is not about banning books. I think Drew expressed it very clearly and very well. And, you know, again, when we're looking at anything that is of graphic sexual content, illustrations of, you know, things like that. It isn't even about, I mean, I don't support an illustration of a man and woman engaged in sexual activity in a children's book any more than any other. So I think it's very important that we are genuinely clear about what we're talking about. We're not talking about banning books. We're not pointing out a specific group or community over another one. It's really not about that. It's just about what we believe and what we can do to make sure that the things that are in front of our kids are age appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about, really, it goes back to the process of this. I think for me, when this topic was brought up, and then there was an immediate agreement to write a letter or send them a letter, then it just seemed like there was more information that wasn't maybe disclosed to all of us. Now, with that said, it was also said after the fact that somebody from the Board of Supervisors requested that we send them a letter. So, to me, that was disturbing as well. Why would a member of the Board of Supervisors request us to send a letter, if that is in fact true? I'm not saying it's true, I'm just saying it was put in comments or posted somewhere. But to me, that was probably, why would, you know, one, why did we tell the Board of Supervisors what to do? And two is, why would somebody from the Board of Supervisors request separately for us to send something to them? So I'm just throwing that out there because whether all that is true or not, that was the perception that was put forward.
All right, thank you, Matt. And just to add to this conversation, I don't think we should be talking about this at all, ever, for any purpose in local government. But, so that's why it's America and we've got this sort of views, but we have caused great harm to our community and great harm because of a conversation that we can do nothing about. So, with that, here we are. So, welcome to the City Council meeting. How many of you want to speak on this? Okay, who brought breakfast? No, I'm just kidding. So if we can do 3 minutes, is that workable as opposed to 5? And if the person before you said, I'm with them, could you just say I'm with them? But if you have something new to offer, for sure weigh in. But we want to make sure everybody has a chance to be heard. So we're going to be civil and polite, and we're going to hear each other out. And now we have as many different views up here as you are out there. So here we are. But it looks like, Mr. Rollins, you are just anxious to be first. So 3 minutes. And I would just invite you to kind of queue up as you see an opportunity to stand behind Mr. Rollins so we can keep this all moving. If you would state your name and if you're open to sharing your address just for our records, but that would be great. So with that, Mr. Rollins, welcome.
My name is Eric Rollins. I live in Clovis. I think the first thing I want to say is I hope that this remains polite. I don't want this to be a circus. I think that we all can express our First Amendment rights in a polite manner, that it's a better society. We have a civil society when we treat each other well, even if we profoundly disagree. So I hope that by being first, I set that example. I also want to say that for me, this is age appropriate. It's not about banning books, just move them to a different spot. I don't want age inappropriate books of graphic sexual content in our libraries, and I think this is protecting the Clovis way of life. I get that you don't have the power to actually make a difference, but I think making a stand to protect children, and again, I don't care whether they're gay or straight children, I care that it's age inappropriate. So I hope that it's a very minimum you find a way to actually send that letter. I realize that the council's probably a little divided on this one. That's just how it's going to be. But I would encourage you, I truly believe the right thing is to send this letter. Now, keep in mind, I think your standard should be, would you want your children or grandchildren to see age-inappropriate books in our local Clovis Way of Life library? If the answer is yes, well, then, you know, I guess you vote against it. But if you don't want inappropriate books, you kind of have to vote for this. I thank you for this time.
Queue up. You don't have to have that many people. like, otherwise you'll be standing up for a long time. So, all right, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy Boren, Clovis resident, parent, library patron. Real quickly, Councilman Bessinger, thank you for going to the library and checking out the books. Has anybody else read the books? Excellent, thank you, both of you. The book that you were referring to is a sex ed curriculum. It's hard to be not sexually explicit in a sex ed curriculum. It is meant to be worked through with parents and their children that are going through puberty. Thank you. So we've all come here to discuss the proposed letter, but why? Not because the constituents came here and asked you to send the letter, but because Diane Pierce had a personal issue with a library display, a display that has existed in Clovis each June for decades, and she posted about it on her city council branded social media. The displayed books have all been returned to their rightful catalog spots where they're going to sit quietly for another 11 months. The critical aspect that she is the one that brought this to the city council has not been included in the letter. In fact, she says the letter is already destined to be sent in a comment in the Fresno Bee that she made. So this letter does not represent the majority of the voices who spoke out at recent council meetings. A few concerned citizens did express their reservations about the books without specifying the titles or referencing that they'd had any interaction with the Pride display. Meanwhile, they were overwhelmingly outnumbered by members of the community voicing their support for the inclusivity represented in the library. Furthermore, the library has an established process for reviewing books and their placement in the library, a process which has not been invoked in this case. Forms to initiate the process are available at any library on request. Instead, the council is electing to bypass this protocol and write a letter on behalf of an unnamed number of constituents. The letter under consideration serves to open the door. Even though you have said it doesn't promote banning, it is opening the door for which that can glide through. And we must recognize that this is part of a broader agenda driven by the extreme right, and we need to stay vigilant about guarding against a force that seeks to sow discord amongst our citizens. The draft letter before us states the City Council is not taking a position on the materials, and I fully support that. I wholeheartedly agree. It's vital to maintain the integrity of the library's mission as a resource for information. Let us use the system that exists by referring people to the library's already established process. Let them go fill out their forms and allow the parents to provide the moral and ethical compass for their children and not have it dictated by any group. The people you represent want to know why the City Council is writing a letter referencing third-party comments from unnamed people asking the Board of Supervisors to review unnamed books that the City Council members have mostly not looked at. In closing, I would like to request we reconsider endorsing this letter to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors and instead establish a standard for referring Clovis residents with library concerns to utilize the library's process for reviewing the books. If we are to send a letter, let it be one that truly represents the diversity of opinions within our community and the voices that you have heard here in this room, and one that underscores your unwavering commitment to free access of information, open dialogue, and the values of inclusion and diversity. A letter that solidifies Clovis's commitment to represent all of its constituents. Let Diane Pierce, concerned citizen, submit her own form at the library.
Thanks, Tracy.
This is on, okay.
Yeah.
Anna Carnado, I am a Clovis resident as well. Sorry, I'm short. The reason I felt compelled to come up here was because I wholeheartedly believe that we need to preserve the innocence of children. You can find so much documentation saying how people were molested as a child, and I myself can attest to that. When you start putting things in children's heads, it turns your world around, where you wonder, why me? You know, why me? Why? At a young 4 years old, you know, kids should stay innocent. Leave them alone. I'm just saying, you know, when their time, they'll find where they want to go. It's just being age appropriate. Let them be kids. Let them keep their innocence, and because you can't take that back. You can't take that back. This world is jacked up. It really is, you know, and we don't need to put it in their face. And, you know, I'll tell you what, kids are going to do what they're going to do to get things like this anyway. They're going to do what it takes to see this type of information. So, you know, we just put a just put it where it needs to go with the adults section, that's all. And let's just preserve their innocence until, you know, it's time for them to figure out how hard this world is. And it's not about a book banning. It's not. It's just, you know, letting the kids be innocent for as long as we can. That's all it is. And we don't hate anybody. I don't hate anybody. I love everybody. And it's too bad that it comes to like back and forth hate. It's not about hate, and it's not about religion. You know, when they said a separation of the church and state, that meant that the state shouldn't mess with religion. You know, that's what that meant. It's not in the Constitution either. So anyway, I just hope that everybody can come out of here, you know, not hating each other, because our free speech, we shouldn't ban the books. We shouldn't, because we are in America. That's what we're about, you know, free speech. Let's love one another, because we're in this together. We really are. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Alexandria. I've been a member of the Clovis community for 5 years now, and I'm deeply concerned by this agenda to ban LGBT books from our children's section of the library. I've heard your comments that it's not about banning books, but it is. You are banning the books from our most vulnerable and unheard community members, the children. Banning books protects none and harms many. To remove access to LGBT books from any library will do nothing but harm the communities, especially the children in those communities. You claim it's to protect children, but that's not what it's about. It's to censor a community that you have prejudice against, to further marginalize them. This community has had these books displayed for years, even decades, and suddenly it's been decided that it's harmful and should be removed, that the library staff cannot be trusted to monitor and regulate what is and isn't appropriate. To quote Senator Pritzker, I'm not sure if I said that right, of Illinois, regimens ban books, not democracies. Earlier in this meeting, Mayor Pro Tem mentioned that Clovis became more inclusive. This goes directly against that statement. This is a step back. You are all here to represent and serve the Clovis community, all of the Clovis community, including any gay, lesbian, and otherwise queer person in this community. This attack on us needs to end. Thank you.
Good evening. Monica Blanco Etheridge, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I wrote a letter earlier about this item, and I'm going to read it. I'm not sure if you got it or not. My concerns in addressing you today is the propriety of Clovis City Council sending a letter on this issue to the Board of Supervisors. To quote from your draft written communication, the City Council acknowledges that the selection of library materials is a matter for the county librarian and the Board of Supervisors to determine, end quote. If this statement is true, is sincere, then there's no further action by the City Council is needed or appropriate at this time. It is the Council's responsibility to inform your inquiring and concerned constituents of the protocols for their communication with the Board of Supervisors representative. Obviously, direct communication between the constituents and their member would accomplish the following objectives, among others. The Board of Supervisors would understand the specific concerns being raised. The Board of Supervisors will be informed of specific passages, images, or references raising your concerns. Titles of publications would be communicated, making any investigation the Board of Supervisors wish to engage in far more efficient, less consumptive of staff time, and supportive of a better stewardship of public funds. The City Council could have avoided destructive controversy over an issue for which 3 council members listed in the letter admit they have no authority over. Thank you very much for taking time to listen to me and to allow me to read your letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Nice to see you.
Good evening. My name is Annie Nguyen, and I'm here today because I am concerned about our City Council members engaging in and enabling hateful and misleading rhetoric against the LGBTQ community. This letter that our council members are trying to approve is written under the guise of, quote, protecting children, but is fueled by prejudice and misinformation that will ultimately harm them. The goal was to use an entire community as a scare tactic to voters. We know that this action is based on prejudice because back in June, one of our council members posted a photo to Facebook of a collection of children's books at the library related to gender, sexual orientation, and LGBTQ history with the caption, quote, "Might want to wait until June is over to take your kids to the Clovis Public Library," end quote, referring to Pride Month. And on that same page, you will see countless hateful and spiteful comments toward the community facilitated by and made by that council member. That was disappointing enough, but to see multiple council members being willing to co-sign bigotry shows that you're not actually here to, quote, protect the children. There are plenty of children and teens in the LGBTQ community who do not feel protected by you right now, some of whom might even be in your own families. There are so many young people in our town who are always scared for their safety in some way because of the bullying we enable, the misinformation we teach, and the stereotypes we refuse to fight against. This letter is based on the stereotype that people in this community are predators and abusers. It is also based on the idea that someone can just turn gay and that being straight is the default. This kind of willful ignorance is dangerous. You are demonizing and trying to hide the visibility of so many different types of people to keep an increasingly outdated status quo on what normal looks like. Before we condemn entire communities or topics, we need to ask ourselves, what is it exactly that is making us uncomfortable, and why? Where is the stigma coming from? Because most of the time it's ignorance. A child has the right to be educated about their own mind and body. I would hate for any child to grow up thinking that they're less than or not worthy of respect because of who they are or who they love. But that is the culture we have sown. If we don't allow any space in an educational environment for topics like gender or sexual orientation or even health to be properly discussed, we leave the door open for misinformation and personal prejudices to get in the way. And it is too easy and cowardly to use marginalized and misunderstood communities as scapegoats to scare people into supporting you. We could put up as many artificial barriers to knowledge as we want and continue forcing people to be narrow-minded. But if we choose that kind of world, we leave so many others suffering in silence, trapped in these arbitrary constructs of what it means to be good or normal. But I, like so many others here, want Clovis to be a place that's fueled by love, tolerance, and at the very least, the strength to change, if that means that future children can grow up here feeling safe enough to be themselves. And I understand that it can make people feel uncomfortable, but when was change ever comfortable? Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Please, 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 please. Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Christina Espinosa. I was born and raised in Clovis, so this community means a lot to me. When I was in middle school, I went to Clark Intermediate School, and I went to the library right after the bell rang. Being involved in our community, I feel obligated to explain why LGBT-themed books should be in the children's section. People in the community have claimed LGBT-themed books are not appropriate for children. What's not appropriate is to discriminate against people based on who they love and who they are. Bigotry and ignorance continue to harm people. The GV Wire YouTube channel showed a video called LGBTQ Books at the Fresno County Library, showing the type of books in the LGBT section. There was one book called ABC Pride. The book states, H is for human rights. All humans have the right to live how they want. There are more books informing children about definitions and historical events. There are queer books that add representation and make people feel seen, whether they're in the LGBT or not. The library is more than a place for books. It's a place of knowledge for people to become more well-rounded citizens. The library is intended to inform on various subjects, and it would be a disservice to everyone not to have access to LGBT-themed books. It would exclude community members like myself and the people in this room and show children that being anything other than straight is not okay. The reality is, it's okay to love someone the same gender as you. It's okay to express yourself as a different gender. It's simply loving who you are and those around you. Love isn't political. Love is a part of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Christina? Christina, thank you. Can't read my own handwriting. Please.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm a Fresno resident, a library patron, and a member of and an advocate for the LGBTQ community. Regarding this item, I think context is very important. On June 28th, Councilmember Pierce took it upon herself to publicly disparage pride displays at libraries on our social media. It doesn't seem to be an accident that this letter comes following hateful public rhetoric that amalgamized content with queer issues. Not the same thing. Particular issues of content's one thing, stigmatizing is another. And let's see here, othering folks, creating fear around identity, attempted erasure, exclusions that led to banning books. Somebody else referenced Mein Kampf earlier. Make the conclusions yourself. Why don't we just try some logic here? Because what are we really discussing? From what I read in the library rules of conduct, children under the age of 8 years may not be left alone in the library or on library grounds at any time. Adequate supervision must be provided by a responsible party. So if you don't want your children to see or read certain books, that's up to you, isn't it, as a parent? You go to the library shelves. I grew up in libraries. I loved libraries as a kid. I read a lot of books as a kid, probably too many, and maybe some I shouldn't have read. Within arm's reach, I guarantee you go to a library within a child's arm's reach, you're going to find books with murder, violence, rape, incest. A lot of these books, some of y'all consider classics. And heterosexual relationships. Funny because I read a lot of books growing up with heterosexual relationships. Cover on the cover, displays dedicated to that Disney books. I'm not straight, so it's almost as if it's not about the books or the children. Because when you take that private responsibility into the public domain to impose what the library can display because you don't like it, it's not only a gross misuse of public office, but a far reach and an inaccurate understanding of purview. If A, then B, folks, logic. So telling folks that we shouldn't have a pride display in the library is kind of akin to telling folks that gay people shouldn't hold hands in public space because you don't want to see them exist. If it's really about the children, I'm going to read you some actual statistics. Trevor Project does a mental health survey every year, and in some of the data for 2022, spanned across about 34,000 youth who identified as LGBTQ. 73% had symptoms of anxiety, 58% had symptoms of depression, 45% considered attempting suicide, 14% actually attempted suicide. And I'll close with what actually is a more positive statistic. 89% said that seeing LGBTQ representation made them feel good about being who they were. So while harm by library displays is unsubstantiated, harm by lack of visibility is. So if you care about kids, maybe visibility is a move.
Thank you, Alicia.
Welcome. I'm Malcolm Gibson. My wife and I live at 2776 Pontiac Avenue in Clovis. I have had a long career as a journalist with the First Amendment at its core. Reporter, journalism professor, and executive editor of 3 newspapers, 2 under the New York Times umbrella, and shortly before moving to Clovis 6 years ago, the independent national newspaper in Uganda. So I know what it's like to have the government always trying to intrude on the free flow of information. Tonight, I'm here to argue against censorship and in support of parenting. That is why I'm objecting to this letter to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors that the majority of this city council supported. The goal of that letter is simple: censorship. To invoke a narrow will of a few on everyone living in Clovis and Fresno County. I have read and heard about your discomfort, to say the least, of the state government in Sacramento invoking its will on Clovis, and of big government in general invoking its will. That's exactly what you're doing. What you are doing is clearly an attempt at government-led censorship. Here is what is lost on you. This is not a library issue. It's not a book issue. It's a parenting issue. And I'll bet that you do not want the government, any government, to tell you how to parent your children. If you don't want your child to read a book, that's fine. Do your parenting and don't let them read it. It's that simple. But don't take parenting out of my hands for my children, who are now parents, by the way, and out of their hands for their children, our grandchildren. By signing that letter or remaining silent about it, you want government to do the parenting, your parenting. That simply is not the job of the Clovis City Council or any government entity. Do you know that Where's Waldo has been banned elsewhere? Is that next here? Where do you draw the line? I suspect it's a different place for every individual on this council, every person in this room, and every citizen in this community. So a request, let the library choose the books, and then leave the decision on what children read to their parents, not you. We are this far from 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, each of which have been banned at times. And Judy Blume is one of the most banned authors in the so-called land of the free, home of the First Amendment. If you don't want your children to read any book, Judy Blume's or anyone else's, that's fine. But don't keep them away from my children and my grandchildren. If we choose to have them read that book, personally, I think everybody should read Judy Blume and 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 and Where's Waldo 2. And a tango makes three. This one, which is banned by some, is a true story about penguins, civic duty, and love, something I want my grandchildren to do. So may I respectfully ask that you simply not try to have the Clovis City Council take on the responsibility of doing the parenting. Do your own and let us do ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
My name is Eli. I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and I've been a citizen in Clovis, California for about the last 5 years. I'll be honest, when I first moved to Clovis, I was pretty scared just because, like, I was raised in Fresno, and, like, I heard all kind of rumors about people being racist and all kind of things. My first month living here, somebody called the cops on me just because I was walking down the street and I had a bike pump in my pocket, but luckily the cop was cool. I was eating a Haagen-Dazs, and he just came up laughing just because I was eating a Haagen-Dazs, and he was like, I don't know why somebody called on you, that's not right, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, and so, like, as I've lived here, I've seen, like, more people moving in, and people from all walks of life are going to be coming here. And it's a public library, and it's public for a reason, because everybody will want to come and, like, that. I feel like that's why there should be a representation of everybody there, because it's public. Things are, like how there's private schools. I've been to a Christian private school and stuff, and I am a Christian, and that, me being LGBTQ never messed up my relationship with God or anything. It's always been, like, other people, like, imposing things. And, like, my main point is that if so many LGBTQ kids could go through conversion therapy but still come out being themselves and being LGBTQ and not straight, then just having some books there that are about LGBTQ isn't going to conform anybody to being gay or you can't, that's not something that you can make somebody be. Like, even if I had to, who wants to be gay in this day and age with, like, it's not a choice. I mean, I'm just saying that's how it's not a choice. And, like, it would just help, I feel like, if like, kids that may identify that way have a safe space they know they can go to, because it's always been in communities where kids don't have a safe space that things end up happening, like, getting bullied or at the worst killed, like Brandon Tina, his community. I have no idea why he went to that place called Fall City. If you don't know the story, he's the trans man who died from Boys Don't Cry.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up really quickly.
Okay, all right.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
But he died from Boys Don't Cry. He went to a community that there's no representation for LGBTQ there at all, and so it's just, what's the alternative to not having some representation? That's all I have to say.
Appreciate it, Eli. Thank you so much.
Hi there, my name is Cade. My pronouns are they, them. I am a resident of actually Fresno, but I'm here to talk to you today on behalf of youth. I work for a nonprofit organization that helps youth empower themselves. They are the smartest people that you will ever meet. Sometimes they say the wackiest things. They have the right to read and educate themselves and to become fully formed adults, fully formed people. So I was a child that went to the library a lot. I was poor, but not that poor people just go to the library, but, for example, that was me. That was a part of my story. So, because I was there, I was in arm's reach of books that I probably shouldn't have been reading, but they weren't because they were gay. It wasn't because they were LGBT. They had different topics in them that, sorry, I'm freezing up. Let me just say that I am agreeing with a lot of what people are saying, and so that way I don't take up most of your time. But being LGBT is not something that you can be taught. It's not something that can be, I sneezed on you and now you have suddenly contracted the gay. That's not how that works. Just because you read a story like I Am Jazz does not make you transgender. Just because you read a book like The Tango Makes Three, that doesn't make you gay either. Just because we are people who read these stories, we find representation wherever we go. We will always find the people who represent us, but we want them to be there so we can see them and say, that is where I am. I identify with this person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Katie. Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Marlene Neal Pollock. I'm a Fresno resident. May I first ask, does this gentleman have the right to be televising all of us?
Yes.
I know those are public cameras. This is private. Okay, thank you for answering my question. I am here representing PFLAG. That is the nation's oldest organization representing the LGBT community, their family, friends, and allies. We support their lives in the worst of times and in the best of times. We try to educate families who don't understand. And so many of these books that you are objecting to are simple explanations that normalize the lives of these people who are not abnormal. Fred, my cat, wears a skirt, the penguin thing. There's no sex in those books. It's for children, and it talks about other relationships. And it's not anything that needs to be banned. If you're going to ban things that have men sleeping with men, then you have to ban the Bible.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Crow, and I'm a retired librarian with my master's degree in Library and Information Science from San Jose State. Before I retired in 2019, I worked at Fresno State for 18 years in the Arnie Nixon Center for the Study of Children's Literature. Professor Arnie Nixon was a Valley and actually national icon for many years, teaching in the Department of Education at Fresno State. He was famous for his storytelling, enthralling school children and adults alike with his quiet and calm storytelling style. Professor Nixon donated his collection of 22,000 children's books along with $1 million endowment to Fresno State Library in 1995 before he passed away. The endowment was specifically gifted to set up a center where students, faculty, and the community could research children's and young adult literature, and thus the Arnie Nixon Center for the Study of Children's Literature was created. Arnie's collection has grown substantially since the openings of the center in 2001, and last I knew it held about 75,000 children's and young adult books. While the collection is quite varied, holding mostly fiction, it has several areas of emphasis. One of these areas is interest in LGBTQ books. With Arnie's original collection, the center boasts the largest collection of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer books for children and young adults anywhere in the nation. While these books are for research, I personally have shepherded them as well as read a great many of them. I can tell you these books do not sexualize children. These books speak to loving families and to accepting people for who they are. They offer a sense of validation to LGBTQ individuals and families, and they open windows into the lives of children and families who might, in some ways, not be like ours. I went back to school in my 40s to become a librarian because I believe in the rights of the First Amendment. It is the cornerstone of democracy and a free society. Censorship, however, is the cornerstone of totalitarianism and controlled thought. Censoring LGBTQ books from the public library will not change people's sexuality, nor will it protect children. Censoring LGBTQ books will only teach children that they are not worthy to see themselves and their families represented in our society. It will also teach other children prejudice, as they will be unfamiliar and distrustful of those people and situations that they have no experience with. Arnie Nixon was a wise man. He created his collection in order that children would be able to learn through books about other peoples and cultures. He sought through these same books to give children a greater understanding of all humanity. Arnie Nixon hoped to create a more compassionate world through children's and young adult literature. I urge you to do the same and let Fresno County librarians continue to offer a wide variety of literature, including those books that represent the LGBT community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hard to follow such an articulate speaker. I'm actually also working on my librarian's degree, also at San Jose State, but I'm in progress while she's already achieved that milestone. My name is Dana. Been a Clovis resident for about 15 years. And I would understand if some of you on the council are feeling a little unfairly personally maligned right now. You're feeling you're being tarred with a brush of bigotry, or that you're being accused of banning books when, as Councilman Besser said, we're not trying to ban books, we're not trying to ban books. And I understand that you believe that, but as somebody in the library industry who's working professionally, this is not an isolated, 2 books are being challenged in Clovis, California. This is part of a national trend that we are seeing and discussing in great concern in the library community of seeing this content, LGBT content, primarily challenged at all levels, with always the message of, well, we have to protect the children. We have to protect the children. I understand that you would not feel comfortable, Councilman Messenger, with your 4th grade grandchild reading a book with that sexually explicit stuff, even if it's not LGBT, if it's just, as Councilman Pierce said, she would reject even if it was men or women. I understand that. But by literally bringing this issue up, you have raised the profile of those books immensely. The odds of any child wandering into the children's section and happening to discover 1 or 2 of those books that you think have too much sexually explicit information on their own are astronomically small compared to the rest of the collection, if not for the fact that now this is in the news. Now this is a topic of discussion. So simply by bringing it up, you have exposed more children to these concepts than would possibly have explored without this even happening. And again, as somebody else brought up, children under a certain age must be supervised in the library. It is part of Fresno County Public Library's policies, as has been brought up by many people more eloquent than me. Parents can supervise what their children read. That is well within their rights to do, as long as that child is a minor. They cannot dictate what is appropriate for other people to have access to in the children's area. For those who are concerned that these content will normalize certain things about sexuality, things that, concerns that it will normalize non-straight sexualities, my counteract to that is, if you don't want it normalized, then you want your children to believe it's abnormal. And if you want your children to believe it's abnormal, that's because you want the children that are that way to feel like a freak. That is what it means when you are, I was left unsupervised in the library a lot as a kid by a fairly detached father, and I would read through the public library, and I got bored with the kids section pretty quick, you know, and I wandered and read from everywhere. I read from some from the kids, some from the adult section. I read stuff that you two would probably think I should not have been reading at that age. And my response to that was not, oh, wow, my brain is warped. My response was, oh, I feel seen. I feel seen. I feel like there's an option, and I know that we're running short on time.
I was going to say, we're about out of time. Thank you,
All right.
Dana.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Thanks for the mic call out. Sorry about that. Please.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Johnson. My area code is 93619. I have been a Clovis resident for 18 years. I understand that there is some concerns being addressed or issued about a LGBT book display. In response, I do have some concerns of my own. As a resident employee, voter, and member of the LGBTQ community, I am concerned that if this were to get a yes vote to send this letter in any form, that members of this council are saying that they perceive me as someone who cannot make decisions for myself or for my children. I am concerned that the members of this council, if they vote yes, think that so little of the residents in Fresno that they do not have the critical thinking skills to be able to determine what books they would want their children to be reading. I am concerned by voting to send this letter that the council does not view me or my LGBTQ siblings as constituents, but rather a threat to the Clovis way of life, when in fact we are a part of the Clovis way of life. I am concerned that by restricting views and reading material could result in a loss of freedom for Clovis residents, since the government, by sending this letter, is trying to project what Clovis citizens would want to be shared with the Board of Supervisors. What I am not concerned with is having resources for LGBTQ youth and their families, or people who want to learn more about queer history or queer life in general, and having access to materials in a public space to do so. And I am not concerned with the ability of Clovis residents to be able to make decisions for themselves, whether or not they want their children to be reading these books. I am not concerned that families in the area do not have the critical thinking skills necessary to be able to discuss the contents of these books with their children. And I trust that you will take my opinion and the opinion of my LGBTQ siblings in this room in consideration when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Good evening, Council. My name is Isaac. I am a proud member of the Clovis family, Clovis community, born and raised here, graduated from high schools and attended school here in Clovis and lived here my whole life. I stand here today in opposition of this letter that was written by a council member. This really is, to go back to a comment previously made, this is a question of parenting. You know, it wasn't too long ago, it feels like, I know we're all getting older, kids get older. I would get out of school right here at Clark, go Chieftains, and I got to escape the bullying. You know, kids are rude, you know, kids are really bad sometimes. And I would find myself in a book here at the library for years. I'd go on to Clovis High, find myself yet again at the library, just escaping the world. And it always made me very happy to see and meet individuals of the queer community, gay, straight, Latinos, just people, just members of the community and youth. And I always looked at this town and the Clovis way of life as just this warm and welcoming place, you know. I got to call this place a home for a very long time and still proud to do so. What kind of message do we send to LGBTQ youth who were not involved in this conversation of a writing of a letter? Are they not allowed to have a place in the public library here in Clovis? I look around, I'd assume most of the older folks here might be parents. If there's a book you don't want to read, for God's sakes, you can tell your kids just don't read it. But that should not be your right to infringe that upon me. To choose what I do or do not want to read. I want to leave here and say that, yes, there are going to be folks here that disagree, and I'm sitting here trying to be as civil as I can. Can we talk to each other? Can we talk to each other, please? Gay people are not here. Trans people are not here to hurt you. They're not here to groom your kids. I have not heard that word used tonight, the dangerous words of pedophile and groomer. People are just trying to live their lives. And if we would stop judging people by who we love, what we look like, and just sat down, talked, I think we would see how much we have in common rather than just being opposed. to certain aspects of all this. I yield my time. Thank you.
It's good, because you had like 1 second left. Just kidding.
Hello, Clovis City Council. My name is Josh Fulfer. I am a lifelong resident of Clovis. I wanted to address just a couple things. One of the things I wanted to address was the board meeting, where it seems like a lot of the city council members decided to gang up on one person for sharing a social media post. And then, Lynn, right before this, you kind of took a jab as well before this meeting started, stating that you're in this mess because of somebody sharing a social media post. Thank God there's one of you that want to alert the parents what their child will see when they go to the library. And that's as simple as it is. It isn't about being gay. It isn't about being transgender. It's about none of those. You guys have already made it clear you're not here to ban books. You notice every person, it's part of the agenda they need to keep doing. That's what keeps the fire going, is to lie and say what you guys are doing, which that's not what is suspected at all. And, you know, like I said, as a lifelong resident here, I would honestly have to ask, why does it have to be in the children's area of all things? To me, that's confusing. That's confusing. If it's in an adult area, someone mentioned that you have to be 8 years or younger, you have to be with an adult. If your parent wants to take you to that area, your parent has that right to do so. Your parent has that right to do so. But as a taxpayer and someone who is concerned about my community, I mean, it's done a great job to drive Fresno into Clovis tonight, has it not? I'm talking about the people that actually vote, that go to the ballot and mark a dot by your guys' name. Those are the ones that I think are absolutely concerned about what is going on, not just in the library, but in the school districts and everything else. And I'm a loss for words when it comes to that people think that's okay, that people think that's okay for this graphic nature of books to be sitting there on display, bright, with all these bright colors that attracts children. And Lynn, you don't see nothing wrong with it. Others didn't when the post was made. And I think the city of the constituents of Clovis should be glad that somebody's actually telling them what's going on, because without that, nobody would know. And it is unfortunate. I mean, I don't see you guys, most of you, unless it's near election time and you're going to speak a little bit, or you're at farmers market trying to get votes, but you have to represent us all year long up until the next election, and I'm hoping you guys do that. Thank you.
Thank you for not applauding. Thank you. Thank you. And be careful that you don't put, like, generalizations on people. All of us need to practice that, so just for the record. Please.
Good evening. My name is Stephen, and I'm actually a resident of Fresno. However, this is a letter that's going against Fresno County Library. So I am here, as the gentleman just pointed out, and I'm glad that I followed him, because it changed what I was going to say. He was very big about the First Amendment. The Constitution exists in Clovis. I have no doubt of that. Everyone's entitled to free speech, as long as they're straight. And I say that because I've been watching this feed that is allowed to happen, and that is probably happening all across the room, and everyone who is standing up here saying, hey, we just don't want these books pulled from the library. We are being called groomers. I was a United States Marine. I fought for this country. I defended this country. I defended LGBTQ rights while I stood up for my country. I fought against Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because it was an awful law. This is appalling. I moved to California. I moved my family to California because I was told this is a progressive state. I loved California values. I've been told for the past 3 months about Clovis City values. And then I see this letter, and it doesn't reflect that. It's chilling. I know brothers and sisters who have died because of things like this. And being called groomers just because we say, hey, enough, that's unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your service.
Hello. Good evening, council members. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Thank you. My name is Elle, and I'm a local teacher. I am here to offer a queer educator's perspective, a queer young educator's perspective. I probably don't need to tell you why I think libraries are important and everyone has the right to learn how they want. I'm fairly new here. I moved from Florida, a place where in some areas, books like And Tango Makes Three have already been banned, along with almost 400 other books just in the past year. What I'm going to say is how often in my working years I am seeing a variety of normal human bodies being treated as abnormal. A lot of us grew up thinking our bodies were repulsive, too different, or unlovable. I grew up thinking a lot of those things about myself, as others have too. That's one thing a lot of us, I'm sure, have in common. I remember a student coming back from the bathroom shaking, and when the assistant principal and I talked with her, it turns out her cycle had started, but no one told her it was coming, and it was normal, so she thought she was in serious medical danger. I remember another student staying after class in tears because last period in drama class, he tried on a wig considered girly, and he loved how he looked in it, but he was convinced that that feeling was wrong and unnatural. Even though finding oneself through artistic self-expression is normal and natural. Now, I have had experiences like this. I thought I was doomed. I thought I was stuck in a role I could never get out of. Do you know what all of us could have used? This book. This book explaining gender and sexuality in an approachable way that is apparently deemed dangerous and unsuitable for children. Meanwhile, the legal working age in California is 14 years old. I don't know about you, but I don't think the burden of labor should be placed on a child. Meanwhile, military recruiters are sent into high schools to convince poor teenagers to risk their lives for their country. Meanwhile, our babies have drills to practice hiding in case someone shows up at their school to shoot them. These things are considered normal and acceptable. But this 30-year-old book recommended for parental guided reading telling you how sex and gender works is crossing the line? I don't believe that. And at this point in the evening, after all you've heard from my community, I hope you don't either. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Hello, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Drew Harbaugh. I'm the current chapter president of PFLAG Fresno.
Tell me your first name again.
Drew Harbaugh.
Hello, Drew.
Hello, thank you. So I have a lot of things I'd love to speak with you about tonight, and fortunately, thankfully, most of my colleagues have covered everything.
And you only have 3 minutes.
I only have a few minutes. One thing I do want to say is thank you, Mr. Bessinger, for actually going to the library and looking at these books. One of the things that happens is that we start talking about these books, and people don't actually know in it, and then we see something like, as was in the letter, that these books have material featuring graphic sexual content, including images of sex acts in the children's section of the Clovis Library. Now, at the risk of titillating the good people of Clovis, I'd like to share that image, the one that's I'd like to share the image that is supposedly graphic sex acts. It's not that scary. It's cartoon, and it's two people in a bed. It's not that scary, and it has also been referred to by one of the city council members today as pornography. The thing is, with this book, which you all actually mentioned yourself, Mr. Bessinger, there's actually a whole section dedicated to staying healthy, talking about teaching kids how to talk to adults about sexual abuse, how to come out and say, I'm being sexually abused. There's a whole chapter developed that's in here talking about how to avoid predators online. This book could help children to avoid being predated upon. It might have images that you wouldn't necessarily give your 10-year-old unaccompanied, and actually it says for age 10 and up, right on the book. But this information is vital for our kids. My own kids, when I brought this to my wife and was talking to her about it, she reminded me, my own kids had this book. This book was published in 1994. It's been on the shelves that whole time. I'm very happy to report to you that my kids, who are now in their mid-20s, did not suffer grievous harm by seeing naked, pictures of human beings in a book about sex education. The danger here is when, especially a governmental body, uses rhetoric that conflates the LGBTQ community with all things sexual. For one thing, that's just weird. Please don't do that. It's just weird. For another, we're human beings, and our community is vibrant and beautiful, and we have loving families in many different variants, and we would also like to have the ability to walk down the street and not be concerned that somebody's going to film us or shoot us or be able to, just be able to survive and live. when...
I'm going to ask you to wrap up that next one more sentence.
I would just like to ask you to not use the resources of Clovis City Council to send an inflammatory letter to the Board of Supervisors, please.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Jarvis. I've been an LGBTQ plus activist in Fresno for 20 years. Representation matters. I grew up in Clovis, and I went to Clovis schools. I went to Cole Elementary, I went to Clark Intermediate, I went to Clovis High. So even though I live in Fresno now, I'm from here. When I was a kid, there was nothing available to let me know that LGBTQ plus people even existed. Nothing. That had a very negative effect on me, as it has on every child who can't see themselves in the world around them. Every step towards censoring or removing LGBTQ plus books from libraries directly damages children. While many claim these efforts to censor reading materials are due to inappropriate content, there are some facts I'd like to share. This is from PEN America regarding all banned books in the U.S. 41% of those books are LGBTQ plus related. 40% are focused on people of color. 22% sexual content, 21% themes of race and racism, 10% with themes of rights and activism, 9% autobiographical, and 4% on religious minorities. When you look at the numbers, it's clear which books are being banned or censored, and we're right at the top of the list. So I think Diane Pierce can say over and over to the end of time that this is not about LGBTQ plus books, but as other people pointed out, she posted on her Facebook page this display, which was from the public library, and it was Pride Month, and this particular book that she's so hot about, It's Perfectly Normal, was at the top of that list. She's trying to hide behind this book and say, yes, you are, and say that it's about sexual content in this book. This is a sex education book, which I think Clovis should appreciate, since I don't even think you teach sex education anymore. So you should want people to read this book. You should know that LGBTQ plus kids have 40% higher risk of being houseless and of attempting suicide. This particularly affects transgender kids. So, education is not dangerous. Education feeds minds, creates conversations and debates, opens doors that cannot be opened otherwise, and brings people together. This book is education. Children are not damaged by education. They are enlightened, they are uplifted, they are given wings to fly to places they didn't even know they wanted to go, to become the people they realize they are. I strongly urge Clovis City Council to reject Agenda Item 20. I just want you to know that I'm 61. I grew up reading straight books, watching straight movies, and being told every single day of my life that being gay was wrong. It didn't matter. I turned out gay. I've been with my husband for 27 years. We've been legally married for 8. The LGBTQ plus community and our allies are watching. We are proud. We are important. We are Americans. We are here. We always have been, and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Welcome. Hello.
Hi, my name is David Warkness. I'm a resident of Fresno, but I'm here because the letter is going to the County of Fresno Library System. I'm 61 years old. I'm a retired social worker. I've been gay since the day I was born. I pioneered gay adoption in California. I adopted 2 infant boys in the late 1980s. They're in their 30s now. They're in beautiful, healthy, heterosexual relationships, and I have a lot of grandchildren, and I'm very thankful for that. As a social worker, I spent the last 20 years of my career doing after-hours emergency response investigations for Child Protective Services. I know child abuse. I can tell you a lot of really horrible stories about child abuse. And you know whose home I wasn't in? I wasn't in gay people's homes. I was in straight people's homes, okay? And for anybody to say that we're targeting children by educating them is beyond offensive. When my grandchildren ask me, and I'm a devout Christian and have been all my life, and like this young man over here said earlier, your hate on me and your version of Jesus Christ isn't going to affect my relationship with him. But when my grandchildren ask me, Grandpa, why do Christians hate you? How am I supposed to answer that? How am I supposed to answer that? Because I'm going to call this what it is. This is not about a library display. This is anti-gay, anti-queer, anti-lesbian, anti-trans rhetoric, okay? And this letter is going to the County Board of Supervisors because there's a couple of guys on there who agree with you, Councilwoman, and you're feeding them, and you're going to feed each other, and this is going to grow, and we're going to stop it right here. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Thank you, David.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Sarah Boehm. I'm a resident of Clovis, and I'm the proud mother of a transgender child. So this is deeply personal to me. I have been to the Clovis Library for the entire 12 years that we've lived here. We moved from out of state. I love going to the library, love taking my child to the library. Seeing pride displays and books of all types in the library, it makes the children who are struggling with their gender identity and their sexual orientation feel seen and heard, and it tells them that that is a safe place for them to go and to be. So taking pride displays down from, like, urging concern over certain books, it hurts people, it hurts kids, it hurts my child. So this is hugely important to me. I'm so frustrated that I have to be here tonight because you guys are spending my tax money in this way. And I'm urging you to vote no on sending this letter. And if you've already made up your mind that you are going to agree to send this letter, at the very least, you need to include that a vast majority of Clovis residents agree with the pride display and with these books. And if you really wanted truly honest feedback, you would know that more residents of Clovis support the pride display than do not, and that have concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi, my name is Maddie. I live in Fresno. I'm here because this letter is being directed to the Fresno County Board. I'm going to try to keep my comments short because I have voice weak. It's weak from surgery I just had. I don't want to be here. I should be at home relaxing with my loving wife and my two beautiful dogs. Instead, because of this proposed letter that is being considered, I have no choice. Banning the ability to access information is completely antithetical to a free society. And when someone says, I don't want to ban a book, it has the same ring as I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, but, and you can guarantee yourself the next thing coming after that word but is the thing that you're saying you're not doing. So let's not mince words here. There are people in this council who are trying to ban books. If not now, in the future, this is a slippery slope. Now, this book in question has never been an issue. It's been on the shelf for decades, and for some reason, right now, I think it's being targeted because the anti-LGBTQ+ IA fervor that is gripping the country, particularly targeting trans folks and particularly targeting trans kids and trans queers, is gaining momentum. You know there are other books in the library that would express some ideas that we would not accept today, yet we have no problems with those. I'm sure there's a copy of Mein Kampf, as somebody points out. I know there's a copy of the Bible in there, and the Bible is the story of the father Lot, who was willing to give up his daughters in order to satisfy a mob. There's a Deuteronomy, the Bible prescribes punishment by stoning to death women who have had premarital sex. We do not live by these types of ideas today. But for some reason, this particular book, it's perfectly normal, should somehow be shrouded in censorship as beyond me. It's going against the very foundations of our society. Supposedly, we are a free country, we are a free society, we are a democracy, but there seems to be a force at work right now, not only here in this council, but in the country at large, and it would like to do away with the Constitution. They would like to do away with free speech, they would like to limit civil liberties, they would like to limit civil protections. I don't necessarily know why that's the case. It seems to me that people are reveling in their hatred. Hatred that is built upon intolerance, intolerance that is built upon ignorance, and ignorance that seems willful at this point. I actually have a hard time believing that any members of this council, including the councilman who started this whole mess, actually believe that what they're saying, because it's so illogical, it's so irrational, it's so hateful. I can only guess this is being done out of some sense of political opportunism. Maybe it's for likes on Facebook. I don't know. But it needs to stop, and if we are to continue as a free society, this needs to stop. And if people on this council think there are legitimate reasons to ban a book like this, I question why you're even in government at all, because clearly you do not represent the ideas that have made this country a beacon of hope for so many. You know, every day I wake up with a new story, some news piece about the LGBTQIA+ community under fire, particularly trans folks and particularly trans children, and I'm sick of it. We are not groomers. This is not some ideology that we picked up. This is not something I chose to do. We are who we are. We are something that we cannot change. We can only choose to be our authentic selves. In fact, I chose to try to be something I wasn't for 50 years. It didn't work out so well. I spent a lot of time with substance abuse, with depression, with anger, suicidal ideation, and I don't wish that upon anybody,
Maddie,
especially a child.
can you wrap up here?
Sure.
Thank you.
We have an opportunity to be open and free in a loving society, and it's sad and great that we have voices in the particular party and philosophy that seem to want to stop that. I would ask the council to not send this letter. It is despicable. Do better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Hello. My name is Ben Parker, and I am a Clovis resident as well as the G and the LGBTQ+ community. And the following speech is one in support of not banning LGBTQ+ books at the library. Since our demographic has changed over the years, we need queer literature to assure our city and its children do not fall to ignorance. When one is ill-informed or not informed at all of the topic of any sort, the response may be hateful. Most time it is. I have firsthand knowledge of that since I was called a fag multiple times throughout high school, through those 4 years, freshman year to senior year, by various people that I didn't even know. Ignorance and hate go hand in hand, meaning that we need to guarantee this generation is well informed of the differences in our society. Since Councilmember Pierce agrees with a comment that children should read about animals, then they should know that many express homosexual traits. Some examples from Encyclopedia Britannica include male giraffes rubbing each other's necks while simultaneously ignoring the female end, as well as King, Gentoo, Humboldt, Adelie penguins, all vocalizing to one another, those of the same sex, in the exact same manner that they do for any sort of mating ritual, showing that this isn't some sort of unnatural thing that just happened one time ago. If this wasn't natural, it would have stopped by now, just due to how nature works. Finally, I'd like to paraphrase a quote. We are like ants. It's in our diversity where we find our collective strength, therefore proving that when a society condemns homosexuality, it truly is condemning itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Welcome.
Thank you, Blanca Porras, and I actually brought the book to you. Can we please have the book out here? I'm going to have to speak fast because I was ready for 5 minutes and not 3. Under California Penal Code Section 261.5, statutory rape is a crime because California law does not give a minor the legal authority to consent to sex. Sexual intercourse pictures is pornography. Can I please have you show the people the book? It's perfectly okay, or it's perfectly normal. Can you please get up and show it to the council members because they probably have not seen it. And I know where Vaughn, and I know where Drew, and I know where Deanna stand, and I thank you, Deanna, for what you have done. And you will be surprised how many people are behind you. Can you please show it to the people?
Would you all mind standing? Just stay in your seats. This isn't a parade either.
Well, people need to see what we're talking about.
I understand, and they can see from where they're standing.
So an adult reading or texting sex material is breaking the law. Emily Drabinsky, the American Library Association, the oldest and largest trade organization for libraries, described herself in a tweet as a Marxist who believes in collective power, awarded $211 million for fiscal year 2023 and using the funds to push a Marxist and sexual agenda on children. I want to remind you that your oath of office forbids you from being associated with the group led by a Marxist. Sex education should remain under the guidance and cares of parents. It is their right to teach sexual morality to their children in the family unit. When you throw them too early into abusive, on your face, adult pornography, their beauty is destroyed and can never be retrieved. I remind you all, this is nothing about your sexual preferences. It's about putting this in front of your children and your grandchildren. If you're okay with this, we have a problem. A study on the March 2023 issue.
Can you wrap up? It's been 3 minutes. Finish your thought, and that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, well then, if it is a crime for a minor to consent to sex, it is the parent's responsibility and right to teach sexual morality. Children's innocence must be protected. It's a fact that the public sex ed is insensitive, embarrassing, and harmful. Parents have no control as to what is being taught behind closed doors, and in fact, increases underage conception, has no literary value or supplements academics, is not educational material, and your oath of office forbids you from being associated with a group led by a Marxist. So then there it is. You need to do this letter. This is the hill you will die on. If you do not take care of this,
thank you for your comment.
Children's faces, it will not be forgotten.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Barbara Yorkanjan. Thank you, Diane, for having guts to at least try and push against this deliberate, purposeful, chronic indoctrination of our children. I'm going to read something by Henry Kissinger. This is very important. Can you hear me if I don't get up?
Can you make the microphone go down?
This is a Kissinger quote from a speech to the World Health Organization Council on Eugenics. Eugenics is still alive today. February 25th, 2009. Once the herd accepts mandatory vaccination, it's game over. They will accept anything, forcible blood or organ donation for the greater good. We can, mind you, genetically modify children and sterilize them for the greater good. Control sheep minds and you control the herd. Vaccine makers stand to make billions, and many of you in this room are investors. It's a big win-win. We thin out the herd, and the herd pays us for extermination services. This is 2009. This desensitization has been going on for decades. Okay. The real reason for this movement is human transformation, even if they don't realize it. Redefining what a mother is, a father is, redefining biology. What these people have done here, the LGBTQ, they are tooting Big Pharma's horn. They are tooting one world government horn. They are tooting the globalist horn. That's what this is about. The only flag we need flying over city property is the American flag. We do not need a flag that depicts who you like to have sex with. It does not belong there.
Can you wrap up in 1 minute?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
There's a bill for human composting. The Turks and the Nazis, when they killed so many people, sold their bodies for fertilizer. And there's a reason why in these past few months, there's a bill here that passed for human composting. It's because it's part of the dehumanization that's occurring right now. I am in support of anybody who tries to fight the indoctrination of children. Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm not sure how to follow that. My name is Jessica Bergen, and I am currently a resident of Reedley. Sorry to people that were angry that people not living in Clovis attended, but I did grow up in Clovis. I attended Tarpey and Rayburn and Clovis East. I attended school after that to get my degree in early education and in child development. I love the libraries. I have 2 young boys, and we frequent the libraries in Clovis, still in Reedley, and all throughout Fresno County, which is why I should be here. I agree with most of the comments here today, so I will try not to rehash them. I would like to point out that, as has been said, even though you are saying, oh, this is not about being gay, this is not about gay books, it's pretty clear that everyone here on both sides of the issue, mind you, sees right through that lie, because we all know on both sides why we're here. But I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll go with you there. This has nothing to do with gayness. This has nothing to do with LGBTQ. It has nothing to do with the threats that I've been hearing from the people around me accusing gay people of horrible things that are lies and that are calls to violence. We'll ignore all of that, and we'll just go with, yes, it's only about sexually explicit information, and it's only about children. Well, people have already said, you're supposed to be supervised in the library, so done. We can move on. It's already been said that this book has been on shelves for 30-plus years. Okay, we're fine. Also, if we're going to protect the children from sexual abuse, do you know what the #1 way that has been researched shows to prevent child abuse? Is educating children about it. If children do not know the names of their body parts, if they do not know who should and should not touch them and what it should and should not feel like, they are taken advantage of not by drag queens, not by trans people, but by priests and coaches and teachers and uncles and everybody else, when they know that those children do not have access. By denying children access to quality sex education, you are signing them up for abuse.
Thank you for your comments. Just to comment briefly, I'm not quite sure where this is coming from. This is America, and you don't have to live in 936-112 or 9 to talk here. So I don't know you don't need to apologize for not living in Clovis. So anyway, go ahead. The First Amendment doesn't go by zip codes last time I heard. Go ahead. Welcome.
Stop targeting children. I see you. I see your sign. I see your fear. I see your hate.
Would you say your first name? I'm so sorry. Your name, please.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My name is Dean.
Okay, thanks, Dean.
And I just want to say I am a child of Clovis. I grew up here too. And while you show your fear and your hate, you scare the hell out of me. And it hasn't been easy being here. And let me tell you, you know nothing about being targeted. I've lost 2 friends in as many years. And it's hard. And I'm not somebody that makes friends easy. Growing up, I had my best friend and I had my books. I brought my favorite book today. And my earliest memories, I remember reading before I could even tie my shoes properly. And I skipped the shoelaces and stuck with the reading. But even so, even as much as I read, and as important as it is, there was still nothing representative to me. And there was so much as a child growing up here and being censored and all that and that I wasn't even exposed to, that I had no idea until I was an adult. And I could read everything that I wanted. I had access to everything. And it didn't change me as a person. It just means that I'm educated. And I think everybody else deserves the right to be educated. Everybody else deserves the right to read. No books, regardless of genre or anything, should be banned.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate your comments.
Sorry, just pulling up the clock right now so I can time myself. I know we got a lot of folks to go through. Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Dela Cruz. I live in 93711. I live in Fresno, but I live right by Clovis West. So, I'm just here to speak out against the letter that's being proposed to send to the Fresno Board of Supervisors. And I kind of want to tackle it from a more pragmatic sense. First off, the city manager was right in regard to kicking the letter back, because what the hell are the Board of Supervisors supposed to even do with a letter coming from the city council asking you to ban books based on like gender preference? They know it's a waste of time. You know it's a waste of time. You know, I congratulate the mayor over here talking about how it is a massive waste of time and city resources. I feel for the staff who have to be here to support y'all. I feel for even the folks outside, the police who have to stay here and watch out, because we have some of the biggest freaks in the audience who are super bigoted and super anti-LGBT. I just wanted to leave it at that. I think that if folks on the city council would really just think about it and heed, at least, if not the compassion, at least recognize that this is a massive waste of time, that people are doing it for political brownie points. They know it's a waste of time too, because it doesn't go anywhere in any other city. It gets shot down by the courts anyway. So if you want to be the bigger person, you don't even have to be empathetic to my own community. You could just say, hey, Diane, this is a big waste of time. Let's just not do it, squash it, leave it to your own communities. Also, if you want to protect kids, you got to watch out, because you do have some really cool folks in the audience who have been arrested multiple times. Hi, Josh. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right. I think we're moving past the polite stage at this moment. Let's try to lower the rhetoric a little bit. Let's talk about the letter to the Board of Supervisors. Okay, we got a whole bunch of things happening here about flags and Marxists that are way off track. So let's try to talk about the letter if we can.
Okay, so I'm taking a slightly different approach. It is concerning the letter, or the basis of the letter, the foundation of...
Would you give us your name, please?
Yes, my name is Victoria. And my pronouns are she, her. I'm here in response to Councilmember Pierce's assertion that LGBTQ plus literature, quote, normalizes the sexualization of our children, close quote. I propose that before Councilmember Pierce's efforts to censor LGBTQ plus literature be allowed to place unnecessary scrutiny and burden on the Fresno County Library system, the council member has the onus of establishing that the council member has the necessary knowledge and data to submit their assertion seriously. The council member must be made to prove that they have a proper understanding of the issue they are raising. Councilmember Pierce should be made to establish the following. First, they should provide proof that they understand the difference foundationally between fact and opinion. Second, they should prove that they have actually read and properly reviewed the challenged literature. They should also prove that they have read credible material on the topic from appropriate credentialed experts in the field of child development, psychology, library science, and cultural politics of gender and sexuality. Third, Councilmember Pierce should provide a precise definition of terms that they are employing to make their assertion. What is Councilmember Pierce's understanding of the term sexualization and what it means to sexualize a person? For the sake of transparency, they should also be made to provide for public review the source of material they are using to inform their stance. If the councilmember fails to establish sound and proper understanding and data, further action related to the councilmember's assertion should be dismissed and prevented from being used as a basis of censorship of literature that is available to Fresno County residents. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Victoria. Appreciate it. Hello.
Hello, I'm Dennis McCord. I'm a citizen of Clovis, and I want to thank Diane, the entire City Council, and Mayor Lynn Ashbeck for this amazing experience to come and to share our perspectives. I appreciate the mostly civil discussion being engaged here. People of goodwill and common sense stand with any or all of you that are for removing age-inappropriate books. I do stand against LGBT books. I stand against straight books that are age inappropriate. I support item 20, send the letter to the county. I stand with Diane and her concern regarding the age inappropriate books. Diane, you're a decent person. You're a God-fearing woman. The little I know about you, I know you're not a homophobe, you're not a hater, and you're not a bigot. To my fellow LGBTQ citizens, I'm a broken man myself. I struggle with resisting addiction. I struggle with not lashing out at people that disagree with me. I struggle with my own walk on a day-to-day basis. And love wins. Love wins. Every time, love wins. God so loved the world that he gave. He gave. He gave his best for you. He gave his best for me. And he died on the cross and he rose from the dead, and it's by God's grace that I stand here. And Diane, we will not allow lies and false attacks on you to go unchallenged. True love speaks truth. Pride is not something to be celebrated. I don't celebrate pride. When I find pride, I humble myself. I humbly ask for forgiveness. And you know, we will not bow down to the cult. Sure. We are wanting to follow what's good, decent, and right. And there is not a founding father that thought the First Amendment supported the kind of inappropriate books as being free speech. There's not a founding father, I can guarantee you, that thought that the First Amendment supported the right to put these age-inappropriate books in the library. Thank you so much. God bless you all. God bless Clovis. I love this town. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Hello, Angelique. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Hello, everyone. My name is DeAngelique Jackson. I am a community organizer here in this community. I was a resident of Clovis for 5 years, and I just want to start my comment off by saying I recently experienced housing insecurity in Clovis after being a resident here, again, for as long as I was. And I also have experienced like being targeted or racially profiled by police numerous times, and I've reached out to city officials about this. And I think, like, for me, it's like especially enraging to know that we're spending time talking about books in a library that have been in that library for decades, but we haven't spent time talking about real serious issues that exist in our community. Now, with that, I really want to transition and talk about how all of this makes me feel, right? Like, so we're not talking about, as I think so many people have said, we're not talking about banning books for LGBTQ topics or for things like that. But I think ultimately that's where it leads to. George Washington, one of our founding fathers, the first president of this country, when he first started his journey in establishing this country, one of the first things that he really pushed for was slavery. And by the end of his tenure, while he was going on his life journey, he actually rebuked that. And you're thinking, oh my God, where is she going with this, right? Well, as a Black queer person in this country, as a descendant of chattel slavery, I think when you talk about censoring certain topics, it really leads you down the same path, right? History repeats itself. So after the Nat Turner Rebellion in 1831, hopefully you all know what that is. If not, I'll say his name again, Nat Turner's Rebellion. This was a slave revolt. All of the slave states but 3 passed state laws against teaching slaves to read and write. So we all start from somewhere with these types of issues, right? And an Alabama slave code from 1833 reads, any person who shall attempt to teach any free person of color or slave to spell, read, or write shall upon conviction, therefore by indictment be fined a sum of no less than $250 and no more than $500. And I think that this response that we're seeing now is equivalent to the response we were seeing back then, because at that point it was national, and what you all are a part of is a national movement to silence and literally erase LGBTQ people from history, the way that they tried to erase, kill, and pillage Black people who look just like me, right? I'm wrapping up. This is just one more quote.
Okay, one more sentence.
Yeah. So the Harper Weekly in 1833 said this quote, the alphabet is an abolitionist. If you would keep a people enslaved, refuse to teach them to read. If you would keep a people silenced, refuse to teach them to read. Refuse to give them access to knowledge. And with that, I thank you for your time. I really hope one day you and I could have a conversation, because I'd love to connect with you personally and see really what's going on from your perspective, as well as to you, sir. And thank you all again for your time. I hope you think about all of what you're doing and what it genuinely could lead to, not just for LGBTQ people, but for you as well, for everybody in this society. Thank you.
Thanks, DeAngelique. Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Wow, this is a lot. 2 hours I waited to come up here and talk.
State your name, please. State your name for the record.
The city council, I'm kind of like shocked to hear that somebody here, again, has created hate throughout the city of Clovis. The city council has spoken on hate before. This is very unacceptable, and people here are demanding that you change. California Supreme Court said no. They're not going to depublish the court appeal. There was a lawsuit filed, discrimination, 2017, for discrimination and housing. That was in 2017 that was filed. The Fresno Superior Court stated that the housing, you guys are lacking housing, but discrimination wasn't there. Right?
What was your first name again?
Des.
Des, are you speaking about?
Yeah, I'm speaking about the discrimination that Clovis has, and this is LGBTQ. Are you speaking about the letter to the county? This is about the books and LGBTQ and all that. Yeah, it's all combined together, housing, LGBTQ.
Okay. All right, making sure that you're talking about the books. The question before.
This is all relating to the discrimination here.
All right.
Okay, so California Supreme Court said no, they're not going to depublish the appeal. The win in the court appeal is now confirmed. The California Supreme Court said no, they're not going to review it. So now it is set in stone for the whole state to follow. This is groundbreaking new case law on what cities have to do in order to ensure that low-income people and people of color have homes, and it's placed in solid. Also, the race and discrimination claims that were let go in 2018 are back in play. So I would tread lightly because it sounds like you have another discrimination claim on sexual orientation here in Clovis, California. How much money did the Clovis spend to prevent affordable housing and discrimination on people of color, of low income to move here? How much money? 6 years. 6 years we were in court. 6 years, Andy. Millions of dollars that you guys spent regarding hate. Hate for housing for people like me of color, for people like of the LGBTQ community. People already came up here and spoke about the hate and discrimination that they've faced here in Clovis. You mentioned that you wanted it to be like Beverly Hills, but you're not in Beverly Hills, Toto, whoever said that. And if you want to go to Beverly Hills and practice what they have, then you're more than welcome to move there if they accept you and if you can afford it. So I want to know when these 4,400 affordable homes that was ordered by the court for you guys to build, when they're going to be built, because you're going to have a lot of different people here in Clovis in the future, including a large part of the LGBTQIA+.
Thank you.
Am I 3 minutes up?
They are.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Would you give those to the clerk, please? Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Good evening, Clovis City Council members and Mayor. My name is Tammy McMahon-Gorins, and I'm a 35-year veteran teacher. Since 2021, I belong to District Area 3 in Fresno. I've become very involved in fighting to protect the innocence of our kids. Although I do not reside in Clovis, the letter that Clovis is considering sending to the Fresno Planning Commission affects everyone in the Fresno-Clovis area. For 37 years, I've been in education. When a teacher teaches a novel and a PG-13 movie is the reward after doing the novel is to watch the movie, and it's PG-13. It's been professional best practices to get parent permission. The movie might have a rating of that because there is a cuss word in it or something inappropriate. Movies have ratings, but oddly, books do not. In the past, children's books were not controversial in any way until recently, as far as what I've seen as an educator in the library. I promise you millions of dollars have been poured into this cultural sexualizing our children revolution. Tonight, there is a revolution if you don't see it, and wonder why our kids are full of anxiety, depression, and confusion. I've got the flyer that I shared with you, and it shows how much money is being poured into pornography in our public school system. I want you to see that. I want you to go to the website and look at the books. Even the famous Bill Maher, who is politically on the left, has stated that this movement to promote woke ideology and targeting is none other than a cultural revolution that is very familiar with the Chinese Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. There are photos of teachers and parents wearing hats. When I saw the GV Wire video, I know this sounds strange, Mayor Lynn, but when I saw the GV Wire video and Diane Pierce was publicly being shamed, I'm like, she is wearing a dunce cap. She is being shamed publicly, and that is so wrong. And I couldn't believe it, so I had to come. I wanted to thank Drew for going to the library and looking into the books. I want to thank Diane. I want to thank Ong. I want to challenge Matt Maskell and the mayor that I want to say something. Protecting the innocence of our kids is far more important than any city street. And I want to say that writing a letter that's going to go further and then maybe get action of rating books at least deciding what's appropriate and inappropriate, this is not controversial. This is not controversial. It's not. So I would challenge you, Mayor Lynn and Matt, to not say something during this revolution. This is a revolution, if you didn't see tonight. It's a revolution. To not say something is to speak volumes to your constituents. And I want to thank you so much for your bravery to wear a dunce cap. I'm risking it tonight, too, as a 35-year educator. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Tammy.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sean Burdine. I regularly attend these meetings, but I think this is the first time I've actually spoken before this board. So thank you for that opportunity. Tonight we've heard lots of narratives ranging from wide variety of topics, but I really want to just center it back on the heart of what this is. We have 3 board members, that's the majority of the council, that have received numerous complaints and concerns from their parents in their districts, saying that they do not like these materials and are concerned. What this letter says is that this board has received numerous complaints and concerns from parents within their district. It's not asking for banning anything, it's not asking for anything. All it is doing is going to the county and saying, hey, we understand that we do not have authority and jurisdiction over this, but our constituents are concerned. So thank you, first of all, very much for actually taking action on that and really listening to what your constituents have to say and trying to represent them. As somebody who actually has worked in the library system for numerous years, I can say that there are ways that you can directly address this as well. The first one that I would recommend was recommended as well by Councilman Bessinger today, where if you recognize this as inappropriate for children, you can classify it as adult. You can put it in the adult nonfiction area with other sex education materials. 2 other options that are possible is the way the library system works is that most materials have a home designation. All materials within the county are shared with one another, not necessarily just to that particular library. But they do have a home designation where if it's returned, say, at the Politi Library or the Central Library, if it's flagged as a Clovis material, it will automatically be transferred back to Clovis. If these are materials that you do not want in the Clovis Library, you can flag it as no longer as home in Clovis. Perhaps you can set it as home in Central. It's not being banned from the library system. It's still accessible. To go even another step in that direction would be to make it so it's non-circulating, which means that it's on request only. It's not a material that is anything that any parent or child would stumble upon within the library themselves. If there is somebody in the public that says, hey, I see the library system does have this book, I do want to find this book for whatever reason, they still have the possibility of finding it, but you don't run into the predicament of a family going in there and saying, hey, why is this here?
Would you mind wrapping up? It's 3 minutes.
Yes, and I would also like to say it has not been 3 minutes yet because I've been timing myself. But what I have seen tonight, though, Mayor, is you throwing your board under the bus tonight for them representing their constituents. And I've been watching that all night long, and I come to this board regularly.
Excuse me, please. Thank you.
But having said that, that doesn't change that there are ways that you can handle this book while listening to your representatives without banning material.
Thank you. Please. Thank you.
My name is Sylvie Herrera.
I have been assaulted many times on the bounds of being LGBT. This is another attack on the LGBT by specifically targeting our books. Even just moving them out of the way is still suppressing us. This letter is wasting the time of the county. This is obviously hate. These people who are trying to ban it, all of these people who have been supporting the ban are obviously hateful of the LGBT community. Are you for love or are you for hate?
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hello. Hello. My name is Milo. I grew up in the library. I loved reading as a child, and I still love reading. I went to, the schools around here. I went across the street. I come to the library all the time. I was also, a child once. I was a queer, transgender child, and even though I didn't know either of those words, that didn't make it any less true. I know that there are children right now that are growing up the same way I grew up. They did not have any access to, I didn't have any access to, queer representation in media. I didn't have any access to, queer books. This is an issue of accessibility. If I would have known what trans people were as a kid, I would have been less scared of going through female puberty. I would have, known that my fear of female puberty is valid. I shouldn't, be ashamed to know that I shouldn't go through that. In your Instagram post about Pride Month, you specifically pointed out a book that defines gender identity fairly succinctly. And as a person who didn't know the word gender identity until around middle school, I would have loved more than anything to be able to express myself beyond just my clothes and my hair. I would have loved to change my name, and I would have loved to change my pronouns way earlier than I did. But I believe that all members of the community and all Americans should have freedom of information. We should be able to access, whatever we want to access, even if that means that some people don't agree with it. I don't agree with Mein Kampf. I'm sure you guys don't agree with Mein Kampf, but it's still there, and people can still read it, and we're not going to ban it just because it's a different viewpoint. People who try to make these kinds of books, or people who try to make these books unavailable to children, make the argument that authors are forcing the kids to be gay or forcing the kids to be trans. But cisgender kids don't want to be transgender, and transgender kids don't want to be cisgender. Straight kids don't want to be gay. Gay kids don't want to be straight. It's something that's ingrained in us biologically. It's not, an ideology. It's not something you can learn. It's not something that is a parenting issue specifically about being gay. And I want to go back to one of the earlier speakers saying it's a parenting issue, just don't let your child read that books, like those kind of books. And also about the formal complaints with the library, I know somebody mentioned that you can file something. I urge people who disagree with things like that to take that up in their own time, not here in the board, in the local government.
Thank you, Milo. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Peggy Dunkley, and I've lived in Clovis since 1969. I went to Clovis High. My kids went to Clovis High. My nephews went to Clovis schools as well. I have a book barn over here in Clovis, and what I feel tonight is not to send the letter. It is a censorship issue, and it should be censored by the parents. The kids that read Stephen King, my daughter was one of them. She read Stephen King. She's not going to go out and kill people. She's a librarian up in the Bay Area. There's a lot of reasons that kids read, and Harry Potter was banned in Fresno. The Bible was banned in Selma. Why? Harry Potter was banned because it was magical, and the kids were, and it was an occult thing. Selma banned the Bible because it was too religious. It is all about religion, sex, racism, and sociologies. So I really do not think you should you should send this letter. It should be up to the parents to discipline and decide if they want their kids to read these books. My kids went to the library all the time. So I don't see anything wrong with what they have.
Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
You bet. And the cutest baby in the world, in the room anyway.
Hi, my name's Whitney. I'm a Clovis resident and a parent of 2, and my son is just about school age, and I was stoked to see that the library had an in cap during Pride Month. And our library does a wonderful job of curating books for children that showcase diversity in the community. And it really, I'm educating my son that diversity makes us stronger and that we should educate ourselves. And I want him to see people of color and people with a hijab and someone with a kippah and not be like, I don't get it, what is that, or fear that. And so for me, I'm against this letter. I think it is a parenting issue. If you do not believe that it goes against your moral compass, then accompany your children. Look at what they're reading. Also, look at what they're looking at on the internet. I mean, all of that is also a parenting responsibility. It is not the library's responsibility to parent for you. So please, take it upon yourselves. Get involved in your child's life if you're concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney. And cute baby.
Hello. So very quickly, I'm just going to say I'm really, really holding back because I have a lot of anger, okay? That being said, I'm going to do my best not to curse.
Would you start with your name? That might calm you down.
I'll just say Mav.
Okay.
So in high school, I came out. My senior year, I went by the pronouns and the gender identity and the name that I chose. Well, I didn't choose it. Of course, I didn't go through all the surgeries and hormones and name change. This is not a choice. And this is personal because this is lives on the line. And you're going to go back to your church and they're going to say, oh, we respect gay people, we respect trans people, and then turn around and take our rights away. I don't believe you for a second when you say you're on our side, Diane. So, that being said, yes, I do think that material should be tailored as what should be age appropriate for a specific phase of development for a child. I'm not going to go and give a 5-year-old hardcore porn. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if they have a surface level of understanding of what a trans person is, what a gay person is, what a black, Native American, Muslim, what they are, then they're not going to feel like they don't know how to talk to a person respectfully. Because when this boils down to it, it's about being respected. And I don't feel like I'm respected. I mean that. So, either one of a few things is going to happen. You guys are going to shape up and not approve this letter, or you're going to get voted out. Because I work hard to make sure that people get voted out that don't support me. That's it. That's all this is. Democracy.
Thank you, Mav. David?
Good evening. I'm David Rowell. I'm a resident of Clovis since 1991. We've heard a lot of speakers tonight. Very few of them spoke about the item which is actually on the agenda, that is whether or not the letter should be sent. I think what the council can infer from what it's heard tonight is that this is a hugely controversial and very deeply felt issue for the citizens of Clovis. Many people have said you should send this letter because apparently it will prevent the spread of Marxism and it will prevent the one world government that we're all so worried about. Plainly, that is far outside the brief that you hold as members of the City Council. I think the most cogent speakers address the issue. If you don't like the books in the library, make use of the procedure which the library has in place to get them removed. I've heard from the library staff. You submit a form. They meet with you. They interview you. They find out what's going on, and if it's appropriate, then they change their listing and take that book away. If you don't want your kids to read the book, don't let them read it. It's up to you. As Mr. Gibson said, this is parenting. This is not the job for government. And I think it ill behooves you to sort of play fast and loose. We're not taking a position. This isn't the city of Clovis. It just happens that it's underneath our letterhead. Please, if Diane Pierce feels that this is an issue which should be brought to the attention of the Board of Supervisors, write that letter, Diane, and send it to them. Anybody who opposes these issues should write to the Board of Supervisors or go to the meetings and raise your hand and speak, as we all do tonight. But don't pretend that this is just individual council members when you send it on city letterhead. That would be wrong, and that would be disingenuous. Please don't do that. Continue to represent all members of the community that elected you to the office and represent and govern the city of Clovis. Don't let these issues intrude. Don't send a letter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, my name's Bill Brake, and
Could you make the microphone taller, please?
Bill Brake's my name, and I think the gentleman that said they should be kind of graded would be good, because I mean, I had a 5-year-old daughter. She's 27 now. I raised her by myself, but we'd go to the library, and I would not want her to browse in there. Oh, look at this, Dad. You know, I mean, that's not appropriate for kids, you know, that are really, you know, they got to be mature, like 18, really. And I know that's kind of strange, but because, I mean, like if you got your kids sitting down for breakfast and they're eating the cereal and the sweets and everything, and then, you know, somebody says, well, you can't tell them what to eat. They have their rights. So, you know, well, my daughter, she likes cereal. We're just going to give her cereal all the time. And if anybody says anything bad about it, well, then the government will come in and take over. So there are things we've got to do for our kids because they're immature. They're not responsible until they're at least 18. I mean, I think when I was 17, I was in a lot of trouble. And my dad was in more trouble than I was. So he wasn't teaching me anything. But, you know, if I had somebody that'd say, hey, don't go down that road, then things would have been a lot better for me. So I think the grading situation would be good.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Sorry, you're not repairing roads. Jennifer Cruz, she, her pronouns. Clovis Unified Parent, Clovis and Clark alum, Clovis resident for over 3 decades, lifelong lesbian, raised by happy, healthy, straight parents, Christian parents. I urge you to vote no and in opposition to any letter from the City of Clovis to the Board of Supervisors. And I've heard a ton of commentary, some really good points. I'm not going to reiterate all of them. Seems like everything I wanted to say got said in the first few, saying don't send this letter. But we've heard a lot about preserving the innocence of children, and I just want to say I work for a nonprofit at an LGBT resource center where I hear from the youth continuously, and they're not given a choice to remain innocent. And as a member of this community, a lifelong lesbian, I was not given the choice to remain innocent while bullied, harassed, and sometimes physically threatened. As a young person, as an adult in Clovis, I'm still harassed because I have a short haircut and may walk into a women's locker room. I wasn't allowed to maintain my innocence or preserve that innocence when adults told me that I was doomed to burn for eternity in fiery brimstone because of who I was born as. The displays and books in the library, it's, you know, I think it's been mentioned, this is not a city's job to send a letter to the Board of Supervisors. And people would know that a book has been around since 1994 if they stepped foot in the library. It's not our fault you don't know what's in the library. And it's not Diane's job to post, stay away from the library until these bad gay books are removed. It was already said that books, literature, and movies do not make people gay, because if those things made people straight, I would have turned out that way. I graduated in 1995 from Clovis High School. There were none of these books on display. There was no representation in the media, very little. So what I knew was that I wanted to die by 13 because I could not see myself in any of the things, and all I heard from the adults was how bad it was. And especially in Clovis, because I went to elementary school in Fresno, especially in Clovis, I was told from the Christian point of view that I was going to burn and called terrible names. I didn't become one of those statistics. And I just wanted to reiterate that the county, well, the American Library Association has a whole policy and procedure for the selection of these books. Our Fresno County Library has a 13-page policy about these books, what's on display, how they select them, all of those things. Visibility in libraries, schools, media is suicide prevention to our young LGBTQ people and some of the adults. And given the existence of these detailed policies for county library and the knowledge that professionals are following strict guidelines to make these selections and displays in the best interest of all, I'm asking you to vote against sending a letter tonight, and also that you shift your focus to writing an expedited code of ethics and or policy and procedure about what's acceptable from a city Clovis council person and what leadership looks like in the city.
Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Hello, Marianne.
Marianne Cast, 122 Clovis Avenue. I'm suggesting that you not approve the sending of the proposed letter to the County Board of Supervisors. And I suggest that for this reason. The courts have uniformly upheld an individual's right, including the right of children, to receive information, including their right to access the public library's information and resources. Libraries may not restrict or remove materials because of disapproval of the content. Now, bolstering the complaints of some city residents, as this letter intends to do, implies that some benefit will come to Clovis from this action. Is the desired result restricting access to public library materials for Clovis residents? I mean, this doesn't sound particularly positive. In fact, it sounds detrimental. Isn't Clovis a welcoming community, even to gay, lesbian, bisexual, other residents? Maybe the letter is supposed to let the Board of Supervisors know how Clovis taxpayers feel. Well, let me be clear. As a tax-paying citizen, I believe the public library must be a source of information for all. I agree that some viewpoints are those that I agree with, and others are those that I abhor. What other benefit could come to Clovis from sending this letter? I don't know. Can you think of one? If not, could I ask that we stick to the business that makes life in Clovis better and avoid those issues which are totally off track? Thanks.
Thanks, Marianne.
Hello. Hi, my name's Brittany.
Hi, Brittany.
I have had a Fresno County Library card since I was probably 5, so I think that's like 1999. And it was probably like a place my mom had to take me to 2 times out of the week because I was reading through at least 5 books every chance I got. I'm a pretty big book reader. And the one thing I never got to read as a kid growing up were people that look like me, unless they were talking about enslaved people. And I definitely could see LGBTQI, especially not trans people, in books. And I grew up knowing in myself that I was gay, but not understanding what that meant because I didn't get to see that. And I understand that it might seem a little weird to pick up a book and see pictures of people having sex, and you think that's really freaking weird. But children, I guess when you count someone at 16, 15, have sex. That's just something people do, and you've probably already done them. I don't have to tell a lot of people. They all do it. They experiment. The important is understanding how to properly and safely have these kinds of situations happen to them, or things happen that they shouldn't have happen at all. So telling people that they can't have books that teach them who they are or how to have safe sex literally creates a situation of violence upon them. And sending out a letter saying that you don't want books up during LGBTQI month tells people and residents that they are not wanted in libraries that are public for them, and you're telling them that they are not wanted in this city, and it is telling other people that they have the right to come around here and scream and tell us that we are not wanted and that we can be harmed. It is not just recently that people had rocks thrown at their church for supporting people. It is recent that shootings have happened and people have died. People have been killed because of the fact that other people have said that they don't feel comfortable seeing people that look like them. And I'm just here to tell you that, as a person who still has my library card and still frequents libraries when I can or buys them online, I would like people, younger versions of myself and a young person like me, to be able to walk in there and see representation and also see a spot where I can understand how things happen and what should happen properly and safely for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. All right, I'm going to call the question after this last two speakers. I think that's the end of our line. So go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Sue Schramm. I'm very involved in the library and very involved in the Clovis Friends of the Library. And I really agree with the fact that every book should be there for every person, and that if a person or a parent, I have two grown daughters, and if they don't want, I don't want them to read a book, I told them not to, or I would explain why, because that was my parenting moment and my choice. So I would like to advise against sending the letter from the Clovis, but those of you on the council that feel you want to express what is said in the letter to the county, please do it on your own personal letterhead. I agree strongly with that. And I just want to remind you, every book for every person, every book. Everybody is entitled to read every book, whether it's a banned book or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And our last speaker of the night. No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah. My name's Eva. I've been a Clovis resident for 5 years now. I hate public speaking, and I'm totally terrified that I'm the last one that'll be like the bullet point on this whole thing.
Okay, there'll be somebody behind you, I'm sure. We'll find one more person. Help her out here.
I feel so adamantly about this.
I was kind of kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel so adamantly about this that I came down here. I after work checked to see if it was still going on and found out it was still going on and ran down here like half dressed. I grew up not in Clovis. I grew up in Lompoc, California. The city of Lompoc manages the city library. It is a city thing. It's branched off of all the other libraries, but it's a cooperative that's managed by the city. This isn't the case here. It's a countywide thing. You can check out books from the whole San Joaquin library system, but it's managed by the county individually. You can see it by all the different books and things that are available at different county libraries versus our library. I also went to college for a library technology certificate, so I know that there's a Bill of Rights that tells everyone from children to seniors that you can check out whatever you would like. And that's the thing, it's a choice. I choose that my daughter, that has now come out as a trans boy, so I support the LGBTQ community, that open education should be a thing. If you're curious about something, go and explore it. Go and explore different religions. Go and explore different identities. Go and explore different geographies. Go explore different everything. Because it is a wide, wide world out there. And banning books is just a slippery slope. Because if you ban a book, then you can ban another book for the same thing. If you're banning it for violence, you could ban the Bible. If you're banning it for sex, you can ban the Bible. So if you're a religious person, I don't think you want your stuff banned as well. I don't believe that anything should be banned at the library, and it should be by the parents' judgment of what they read. So let me judge what's good for my child, and let you judge what you want for your child. But please don't restrict my children. Thanks,
Eva. Did a good job. You did it, and you're not last. Okay, now the last speaker. Do you feel pressure? Because we could do this all night.
No, I'm sorry, I just couldn't stand, so I had to stay seated until the end.
I'm kidding.
Somebody earlier mentioned that the
Would you
book...
give us your name real quick?
Oh, my name is Kalia. Hi.
Kalia, hi.
Okay, somebody mentioned earlier that this is a pornographic book and there are pictures, and I just wanted to put it into the record here that the Supreme Court has identified porn as the dominant theme of the material taken as a whole appeals to a prurient interest in sex. The material is patently offensive because it affords contemporary community standards relating to the description or representation of sexual matters, and the material is utterly without redeeming social value. And I think that we can agree that sex ed books kind of have to talk about sex and do have redeeming value, because we know that places that only teach abstinence, well, the kids have a lot of sex. So I'd also like to just a couple points real fast, and I'll just bullet point them down. The Mayo Clinic says that we should start talking to children about consent and what that means in terms of abuse, and what that means for sex at age 5. Children need to know about consent at age 5. Girls get their periods around age 10, so at this point they already need to know what's going on in their bodies. That is 4th and 5th grade. Sex ed is important. It's important for LGBTQ people. It's important for everybody. STDs are on the rise. We need to stop that. And it's a safety thing. The book in question does talk a lot about how to tell whether or not you're being abused, and gives you language and tools to stop that. And I think that that's an important part of this. So we know that this book is not just out there and for anybody just to pick up. We know that it's geared as an educational thing for parents to talk with their children. We know the children are supposed to be supervised in the library. And we know that if you have a problem with this, and I know you do, Diane, and that's fine, you can send a letter. Of course, send a letter. Go on Facebook. But when you do it as a city council, when you do it on the whatever that paper thing is, I'm losing my mind. Thank you, the letterhead of the city council, then that implies something that I don't think is quite fair. So thank you. Please don't send a letter.
Thank you, Kayla. Whoops. With that, is there anybody
Mayor,
online?
if I may,
Oh,
yes.
I knew you were going to, I could tell by the look on your face.
We have 2 speakers online.
Of course.
The first is Rose. Rose, I've requested for you to unmute your mic. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Rose, for staying online so long, and everybody in the room, too. Go ahead, Rose.
Hi, thank you. I have been waiting since 6. Let me mute the
I know
echo
you
a
have.
little
Thank you
bit.
so much. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Rose Bell. I live in Clovis, so please don't think that I'm, video conferencing in from somewhere random. I am from Clovis. I grew up here. I've been here for 26 years. I went to Dry Creek Elementary School, then Alta Sierra, and then Buchanan, and I went to Willow International before they changed the name. So I have been here a very long time. I take a strong offense to people saying that the Clovis way of life is something that allows bigotry and hate. Obviously, that is not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the letter specifically and what it addresses. I think that the council should not be submitting this letter to anyone. It is not their business, not on council letterhead anyway. I think that you are supposed to speak for all of your constituents, and in this case, you are not speaking for us. You are speaking for yourself in a select group of people. That it's not everyone. No one, is a conglomerate here. Of course, we're all going to have our own opinions, but in this matter, it is a public matter. And like many have said before, it is a slippery slope into, why is this book in particular causing so many issues? Why is it being brought to the board's attention? What is the purpose there? There are underlying reasons for this, and a lot of it is very specifically timed as well, because like a lot of people have said, and I will reiterate, It's Perfectly Normal has been around for a very long time. It was originally published in 1994 and it's been updated every 3 years since. If there was a problem to this book in the past, it should have been addressed by now. And the fact that it's being addressed now, is a very convenient timing given the current climate in America. So I think it's definitely motivated by hate, regardless of whether or not someone sees it that way. You want to protect children, but you are leaving out children who don't identify as straight or cisgender. Um, I remember specifically in the fourth grade, I learned the beginnings of sex education because, like someone else said, that is when you start getting your period. That is when you start having breast growth and things of that sort. So, if you are left in the dark with no idea of what's going on, that can be a terrifying experience, especially for young girls, especially for people who don't have resources outside of public libraries and things of that sort. I just want to say that in 2008, when Obama became president, I was 11, and gay marriage became a very public topic. And I remember walking to the library with my mother, and she was a very conservative Christian at that time. And I didn't realize that I was gay. But while we were walking there, I asked her, "What's so wrong about gay marriage? If I got married to a woman, would you still love me?" And I remember her saying, "Well, we would love you just the same. We just wouldn't, recognize your wife as someone a part of our family." And that to me, as an 11-year-old, crushed me for so many years afterwards that I had such a hard time coming out as an adult. Um, I strongly oppose to you guys sending this letter. I don't think it is your business. And I think that as a community, we have done a great job of showing up and showing out and proving that we are here too. It is not just negativity, it is love as well.
Thank you, Rose, for your 3 minutes. Really? That's where you're going to go? Okay. Thank you, Rose. Appreciate your comments. Next.
Grace, I have requested for you to unmute your mic. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Grace Persons. I hope you can hear me. I don't know. Anyway, I'm a senior at Buchanan High School here in Clovis. I read the council's proposed letter to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, and there's some questions I think that should be considered before the final decision is made on whether or not you send out the proposed letter draft tonight. The proposed letter draft states council members have received inquiries and concerns from numerous Clovis residents about the recent displays and availability of materials featuring graphic sexual content, including images of sex acts, in the children's section of the Clovis Branch Library. I think 3 questions should be answered before this decision is made. 1, what is the numerous? The population of Clovis is approximately 125,664 people. If the numbers of the concerns were even like around 200,000 people in the community, that is only 2% of the Clovis population. Though I do not know the exact number of residents who may have voiced their concerns about the display of LGBTQ plus children's books in the public library, city decisions should not be made or dictated by closed-minded ideas of few people. 2, what were the numerous Clovis residents? If there are parents who were browsing books with their children in the library, I may understand the concern. Some parents strictly monitor what their children read. However, the concerns of possible parents should not be the reason LGBTQ children's stories are taken out of the Clovis Public Library. If individual households wish to monitor, discuss, and restrict what their children read, it should not restrict others from making their own decisions. Libraries are places of personal selection. What I may choose to read is different from what you choose to read. This does not mean you should remove what you don't want you or your children to read, because your beliefs should not dictate everyone in the city of Clovis. 3, what was the exact graphic sexual content and sex images said in the children's books on display? From what Councilwoman Pierce posted on her Facebook page about the books that were displayed with 50 LGBTQ plus people who made history, It's Perfectly Normal, ABC Pride, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, along with a couple others. The only book in her post that really drew concern about sexual acts and content was It's Perfectly Normal, which makes sense as it is a sex education book that was published in 1994. And it was made for preteens and teenagers. It shows changing body types, sex reproduction, and sexual orientation, which is important for preteens and teenagers to learn as we grow. We are growing children, and having It's Perfectly Normal can help ease tensions when it comes to growing older and discovering who you are. Removing it from the library, it promotes shame of our changing bodies and discovering who we are. And so, along with the LGBTQ plus books that include LGBTQ plus history, inclusive terminology, different forms of sexual expression, there's nothing sexual graphic about those books, and therefore they should not be removed from our libraries. Libraries are made for people to show, to be able to see who they are and the stories of others, to be able to learn and grow, learn more about themselves. And having those removed from the Clovis Public Library would be detrimental to our community. So please do not send your proposed letter draft to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. Thank you. I'm glad I was able to speak tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace, for your comments. Thank you so much. Anyone else online? Last call. All right, close the public portion. So just as a reminder, the action before us is on this particular letter, not the process tonight, not the protocol and standards of performance for the council, all the rest, all important that we will get to, but the action is around the letter. So with that, I will bring it back to the council for conversation. Thank you all for your comments. They were 99% positive and respectful, and appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. Somebody?
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I've heard the overwhelming majority of the folks are against this letter being sent, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that as council members, if we want to submit a letter, we should feel free to do that. But we should put it on our personal letterheads. I agree with that. They're going to know who we are anyway when we send the letter. My intention is to formulate a letter that specifically talks about the one book. It's perfectly normal, or in my mind, it should be in the adult section because it is very graphic. It is a good book. I mean, I looked through it. It talks about sexual abuse. It talks about STDs. It talks about contraception. It's a very good book, but not for a 10-year-old, in my opinion. And that would be the only book that, frankly, I was concerned about. So I'm not in favor of doing a general on the city letterhead letter. I will send it on my individual letterhead.
Thanks, Drew. Any other comments? Is there a motion, Diane?
No, I'll just say, kind of trying to take everything that was said tonight and refocus it as we've tried to on the issue at hand. I'm not concerned whether we send one letter or we send individual letters. You know, the fact that a majority of this council shared concerns from our community about the content of some of these books and would like to see the County Board of Supervisors review that material has already been sent. So that train kind of left the station last time. And so exactly how we formalize that, like I say, whether it's a single letter, and I'm not exactly supportive of this letter as written anyway. So whether it's individual letters or joint letter, I don't think really is of concern. And I do want to address, though, that this action of city council members hearing from constituents and being responsive to that to another government entity that has jurisdiction over the libraries, that's exactly what we can do. So we aren't in a situation where we can hear from people and do nothing about it. This is precisely what we can do. And again, refocusing, this is just about age appropriateness in these books. So if Drew would like to send his own letter, I'm fine sending my own letter. Vong, I would assume that you would still want to do that as well, knowing your concerns about the issue as well. So I'm fine with that being the result. I think we're, you know, still being responsive to the community. And again, the message that a majority of this body heard from the community and wanted to express that concern and ask the supervisors to review the material and come up with a county level solution is entirely appropriate.
First of all, I want to say that the precedent we set is a minority of the council overturning a decision of a majority of the council. One day it'll go around the other way, okay? So I think that is bothersome why it came back. Now, I appreciate that it did come back because there was a deeper issue. I'm all about just process. The issue is its own debate that's going to go on. And so I don't know why it was agendized, why it came back, because now this precedent will go where a majority decision can always come back. And I am fearful of that. And I hope it doesn't, because when we talk about process, you can let us know again what goes on. I am in full support of the First Amendment, even if it's about things we don't like. So whether I don't like LGBT or LGBT doesn't like the opposing side. The day we stifle that, I think that's the day we are in danger. If you come from a country that does not allow you to speak like my parents did, you appreciate the fact of the minority being able to speak. And so, Diane, whatever you post, that's your right. You will own it. The citizens will be able to vote you in or vote you back out, or vote you out or vote you back in, up to you, okay, up to them, because that's something that we have. And I think we should never stifle that, and it can be any of you as well. I think that should always be there, and I wanted to get that out. Our decisions never represent 100% of the, even if we decide to put in a liquor store, it's never 100%. It's based on us and what we feel, and there'll be people who will always oppose it. And so we need to keep moving, because the applicant is relying on the decision of the 5 and the citizens to come and to decide should we or should we not. That's the beauty of our process, that it allows people to come and use this body to move actions forward. And we all vote for something for different reasons. When we approve a liquor store, I may vote because I don't like a dirt lot anymore. You may vote because you like businesses. You may vote because, you know, you support more sales tax. It doesn't matter. And whatever we vote for, that's the individual reasons and or many reasons for it. And the reason why I supported this last time around is that's what we do. People have come before us. We've written letters to the state many times. It's not our jurisdiction, but we will write a letter to the governor. We will write a letter to this governing body that telling them we oppose, we support, or you should look into this. We do that all the time. And I don't know why it's an issue this time. And it's not about taking a position. It's to direct both sides to go to the correct body. I appreciate the fact that I got to meet with the LGBTQ community this time around, and to learn about the processes in the library. I think I'm also a strong adherer or someone who believes in going through the process. We need to go through the process. And processes need to be challenged, even if it's uncomfortable for the persons or groups who like the current process. That's what goes on all the time. That's how we change. That's how we get better. And so because there is a process in place, I appreciate all of you letting us know that, because we didn't, okay, well, I didn't at least, that there's a process by which you can challenge a book can then be reviewed by a committee, the committee can then have an appeal process, and that's the county's entity in which they govern that process, and they can look at it and iron it out there. And so I also want to say it is the county's job, and last one is if, and tonight was a lot of stuff about banning, okay? 100% not against it. Even I'm for the letter, and if the county comes back with we're going to ban a book, I will stand with you to go, no, I don't ever want you to ban a book. I will stand against the supervisors alongside any of you who is against banning. I'm willing to do that. I just want them to step up and go take this issue on and answer. But if their result is, oh, then these 2-3 books will be banned, I am against it, because one day it'll be a book that I love that's going to be banned by different decision makers, and I never want that. And I want all of us to always protect that, regardless of your affiliation or whatever you stand for. That is something that is critical that we all need to stand for. With regards to our letter, because there's a process in place, please, whichever side you're on, test out the process. Let us know if it's a good process, us meaning the county know, because it may never have been used. And it's a good time to use it and go, okay, maybe we like it or maybe it's not working, but deal with it at the Board of Supervisors. Our letter, you know, I looked at it and I just want consistency, staff. I look at an old letter in which we wrote, when we did that one, it says City of Clovis, Clovis City Council with that logo on it. This logo was kind of, I think we chickened out because the majority wanted it. But if we look at the logo before, it was City of Clovis. So in other words, if majority can't get that logo, then I may apply it across the board. Then good, apply it across. If it's not, if it requires a 5-0 for that logo to be used, then proclamations, resolutions like we did today better show a 5-0, or we don't use it at all. I'm all for that. But I think we went down a slippery slope in which it's going to be dangerous for us because we have strong personalities here. And we're going to use this against each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I think that's a danger. But I hope that when we get that workshop, we can iron out those issues so that way the citizens can know, hey, I'm asking for a proclamation. I would like this. Even if it's just one person going forward, it gets on, which I've done, where I just submit it to the city manager, and he puts it out, and they read it right there, and we read it in front. One person. So now it can be, oh, well, you can't do that anymore, Bong. Yeah, you can't recognize Hmong New Year. You can't, whatever I want, right? So, okay, as long as it's fair for everyone, we all know, then I'm good with it as well. So the letter, I'm in support of not sending this letter. One last thing. Because we approved it, I would have appreciated having seen the letter before it went out to the public. I just thought that would be a way to make it so that way it took out all this, some of this stuff that I didn't like, and to make it where it's strictly, here's your venue, please help all these residents out. That's it, done. But I think we put in it more than what I would have liked as well. And so, anyway, that's what I have to say. I'm good with the option of no letter, so this evening.
I just want to thank everybody who spoke tonight. I know we were here for a long time on both sides of the topic, and, you know, I appreciate the fact that everybody came out to voice their opinion, whether, you know, we as a body agree with everything that's said or not said. Still appreciated the fact that everybody took the time to be here. With that said, I don't think anybody up here is for the exploitation of children when it comes to sexual content of any kind. But I will say we spent several hours listening to comments on one book. And we talked about this one book that, you know, was specific to the LGBTQ community. And so, you know, I think it kind of set a perception as though we were against, or there was a perception of being not with the LGBTQ community on what they were, you know, what they were trying to, what was trying to be said, I guess. So somewhere along the lines, it got misconstrued to several different ways, whether, you know, it was through somebody's post, or if it was through, you know, the follow-up actions by all of us or inactions by us. You know, I think it really just kind of spiraled out of control when it comes to this particular topic. Now, with that said, I know that, you know, Councilman Manawatua had mentioned that, you know, the majority of the body voted for this letter last time. Well, the majority can vote this time too, if that's what they want to do. But I also say that was an agendized item. And I'll be the first to say I asked the question on what the process is on how we do this, because I didn't know. All of a sudden, we're voting on something that wasn't on the agenda, and I asked the question, in council comments, can we go right to a voted on item, and then what was the content of that item? We just said send a letter. Now, there was nothing said what was going to be in the letter. So that's the question I did ask. I asked it of John Holt, and I asked it of the city attorney after that meeting. So just to clarify where that came from, and you know, I honestly just didn't know the answer. So anyways, thank you.
All right. Lots of ground covered here tonight. I think your comment about sort of proclamations and then everything's on the table is exactly how we got to this conversation tonight. It's not about all that. We took action on an item that wasn't on the agenda. So I think that was, and I will own that mistake, and sorry to cause all of you to come out and do this. I think Marianne, I know she left, but I think her comment about, is Clovis better for doing this? I don't know. I think we have caused incredible harm on all sides of the issue. And it really was for no outcome. Councilmember Pierce could have written a letter from the very start. No dunce hat included, not suggesting, but she could write a letter early on. Those of you that think that's the right thing to do, I would ask how many of you went through the county process and complained to the county library? Maybe none, maybe one. Okay, one out of all of this. So I think that it's easy to come here and make it all about all the things that it was about tonight. And it's to Matt's point, really, we got way far afield of the issue in front of us. So I just, Clovis is a welcoming community. Our job is to build community. People are welcome here. They need to be safe here, however you define safe. And I also had a chance to spend time at the LGBTQ Resource Center and learned that very clearly. So I appreciate that. But we didn't do anything to advance any of that tonight. We gave Josh some good video that I'm sure will be on the internet in about 5 minutes, if it's not already. And other than that, I don't know what else we benefited. We aired a lot of issues, but we caused harm. And for that, I'm really disappointed in how my role in this, our staff's role in this, how this ended up here. So for that, I don't think we're a better place because of all of this. I hope we can take this and move forward and do the business of local government the way it's supposed to be done. Our mission is to do local government better than anyone else. This, in my mind, didn't rise to that. So I will own that for my role in that. I think we didn't manage it very well up here, all of that. But so I guess I'll just stop talking, but I'll leave it at that. But to all of you that came, thank you for sharing. Some of you shared very personal, deeply personal beliefs and stories, and so we appreciate that. So I guess with that, what I'm hearing is there is no consensus on the letter any longer. Is that right? Or I'll take a motion maybe to not send the letter and let individual council members, and then we'll work out the protocol, whether it's a city letterhead, no logo, a logo, only 5 people can use the logo. That's to be determined. But is there a motion now to not send the letter, or are you good with with a consensus to not send it? Is what I'm hearing.
I think the current, authority, John, correct me if I'm wrong, each individual council member can send a letter on his or her
own letterhead. The question is, are we going to send the letter to the county supervisor signed by all 3? Is the answer no?
Without a motion to approve the letter, it just dies. Or if you want to make a motion not to send a council letter and to authorize individual letters, that's fine too. But individual letters are already authorized.
I understand. So that doesn't need to have a motion.
Well, I think it would be a good cleanup. We've talked about this for 3 hours. I think.
So make the motion.
Option 6, that we not send a letter. Interested council members can send a letter to the Board of Supervisors and not use a city letterhead and make it a personal letterhead. That's my motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that. We can have discussion.
All right. There's a motion and a second that council members can send a letter on personal letterhead as they choose on this particular topic. So is there any discussion on that?
I'm a little concerned just kind of to like what Vong was saying as far as the precedent, because if council members are authorized to send individual letters from the desk of council member so-and-so, I'm not comfortable taking that off the table for this situation. I would be in support of not sending the letter as written from the city manager, still reserving the right for individual council members to send their own letters, but I think it should be available to use from the desk of council member so-and-so on city letterhead.
That's the way I understood it.
No.
No? Drew? That's not, okay.
So you want to withdraw your second, I bet.
Okay, can you clarify what you said then, Drew?
This is where government gets really great here.
What I said was, no letter from the city. Individual council members can send letters if they so choose on their personal letterheads.
So, John, is that...
City council letterhead?
No, personal letter. I mean, they're gonna know who the heck we are anyway.
Okay.
So I think the point's moot with that. I do understand your point, and I'm not trying to set a precedent here. Or we could discuss, if this fails, we could discuss where, because I've sent letters as a personal council member where I said, this is my personal opinion and not the action of the body of the city of Clovis. I'm okay with that, but that's my motion. If it fails, that'll be my second motion.
So, Drew, that is not the personal one we get from Carrie. Not that one. Okay, I just want to understand.
But that's not a.
Well, I withdraw my second.
Is there a second to Drew's motion? I'll second it. I'll second your motion. So there's a motion to direct individual council members to send a letter on their own personal letterhead to the Board of Supervisors as a citizen of our community, period. Yeah? All right. There's a motion and a second. Say it again? Yeah.
I'm in support of just doing nothing, so that way there was really no motion or second anyway when we did it the first time, so there's nothing to overturn.
There was a motion, though. There was a motion for the three of you to do that.
No, I do need to correct the record. There was not an actual vote on the 7th.
So there was nothing, so there's nothing to overturn.
There was no action ever taken on the 7th, so that does need to be cleared.
And so I just say do nothing.
There was a consensus given to direct the city manager to send a letter. No vote was taken at all on that matter, so there was no action taken on that matter. That's why it was brought back tonight.
But was your advice that we should take an action now to clear this up right this second? Is that? Do you not have that advice?
You don't need to take action tonight on this matter. If I guess.
Yes, we do.
If you don't want to send the letter.
Yes, we absolutely.
If you don't want to send the letter in what's up for consideration tonight is the proposed letter in the packet.
Right. So we need to act on the letter.
If you don't want to send that letter, you could just not make a motion to send the letter, or you could make a motion not to send that letter. But I would caution you, it sounds like the motion on the table is different than what the council has done previously. And I think John and Carrie can speak to that each of you send and have individual letterhead from the desk of council member so-and-so. And so what you're doing is really removing the authority that you've already granted to yourselves individually as city council members, which you could do, but again, even that wasn't even on the agenda tonight. So you may be even getting, again, you're kind of, I guess to Vong's point, the process is being played out a little differently than what was on the agenda tonight.
All right, so the action before us is the letter, sending the letter, yes or no? That's the question. The letter that's in here.
So let me withdraw my motion.
And I'll withdraw.
And my motion is that we take no action on this letter. Is that?
And that doesn't preclude people from saying their own if they want to, right? They can do whatever they want.
That would be the way I would interpret it, yes.
Yes.
Again, under any circumstance, the city council can send a letter on your own letterhead. That's already been kind of how you guys have operated for years. So that would not preclude that.
Second. That's my motion.
All right. So there's a motion and a second to do nothing. That's government at its best. There you have it. Let's do nothing. Yes. 3 hours and 13 minutes, and at the end of the day, we're going to do nothing. All right. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I did want to respond, Mayor, to your point with regards to that it was not fruitful.
That was not what
I learned.
No, I said we learned a lot. No.
I learned we got to hear so many of your stories from both sides. That's America. That's what we're supposed to do. And you were cordial. There were a little here and there, but you don't get that anywhere else. You got that in Clovis. And when we got to experience it here, and now they're going to see it all there, to see that we actually got to listen, hear each other, grow from it, because there are stories that you shared that we never experienced. But now we get to here, we go, I didn't see it from that perspective. Now I'm wiser and I know more because of it. There were librarians who came in. There were people who owned bookstores, people who really were, strict constitutionalists. I heard, a lot. I thought this was very healthy and very fruitful.
No, I think that's what we got out of it, but we didn't really solve any, we still talked about the book. So I think that's right. And I think we do have to hear each other for sure. And I think it's super dangerous because the people that said to you in this case, I'm appalled at the books, I think we all had the same number of people saying, hey, the books are great. So I think it's really, the generalizations is easy to say, you must support exploiting kids, or you must want to read these books. None of that is true. So I think we have to be careful on both sides of the conversation, because I could write a letter saying, I heard from so many people saying, leave the books in the library. So that's the other side of the coin. So I think we just, this world gets pretty scary. All right, so there's a motion and a second to do nothing. Welcome to local government. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I don't want to belabor the
No,
point.
you cannot talk. I'm just kidding.
But, bullet number 5 up there. Is it time for us to bring a protocol back for you to consider?
That's not on our agenda tonight, and the answer is yes. But it's not on our agenda, right? And I think you've kind of picked up that we do need to do that, and we can work on it as we go forward.
Okay.
Yeah? I think, but that's not on the agenda, right?
And since you asked the question, I'm in general opposition to that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll solve that the next time we get together to do nothing. Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back to do the Brown Act.
So what do you think about this?
All right, we will reconvene. I think there's a general, let's ask. We have 2 items remaining. Can't find my agenda. I think it's right here. One is a Brown Act update, and then we'll move into closed session. There's a suggestion that maybe we can defer the Brown Act and just move into closed session, and then have the, do our work in closed session there, and then bring back the Brown Act when it's not quite so late. What's the council's pleasure on that?
Second.
Third. All right, so we will move the Brown Act conversation to a future.
Can we move it? I was just going to suggest that we actually have a relatively light meeting scheduled for next week, which is going to be the workshop on the mission, the strategic plan. Could we do it next week?
Maybe. I mean, it depends on how long that takes. If it takes 15 minutes, that'd be really disappointing if that's all it took. But I mean, we can do it whenever. This doesn't count as the AB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 training.
Correct, yeah, it's not designed to be the full 2-hour ethics, Brown Act, PRA thing, but.
Could it be?
Depending on the questions, but I mean, maybe half an hour roughly is what I was anticipating, but there could be some questions.
That's fine.
So it could be 45 minutes, but yeah, it's not going to be the full 2 hours.
Okay, so we will move the Brown Act conversation to our next meeting. And with that, then, that ends our public items, and we will move into closed session. There are 2 items printed on the agenda, which I now can't find again. And will there be action, Scott?
We are not requesting action from the council on either item, so there will be no report.
Okay. Oh, wait, but we don't want to do city manager comments?
I was just checking. I have none.
Okay, let's do council comments. Matt, do you have any comments?
Just that I went to the North Kings water meeting a week ago, and there was really nothing out to report other than it was really the wettest year that we've ever had, it appears. So there was a lot of good positive news on that standpoint going forward, but that's all I got.
I'm sorry, I'm going to open this right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, really. Thank you. Diane?
I have none.
Drew? Thanks.
Well, we have a custom that when you leave the country, you bring back gifts for the other council members.
No, it's when you leave Clovis, not just the country. What is this country stuff?
Well, then I'm probably in deficit spending.
Okay, how about state?
I picked up some wine from the Neckar Valley region that I visit where I lived for council. It's a Trollinger with Lemberger. It's a blend wine, red. It's quite excellent. I went to Germany.
Thank you.
The latter part of the trip, I joined our friends from the city of Fresno up in Munster, which is their sister city. Attended some meetings, looked at some very interesting ways the Germans do things, some things that we can certainly look to do. And it's funny because my German friends had me watch this German TV show called Wilsberg, and it's about a private investigator. It's kind of like Rutger Files, and where the police are either mad at this guy or they're helping him because he can do things they can't do. And so that's in Munster. It's based in Munster. And there's another town called Bielefeld, Bielefeld. And Bielefeld is kind of, they have an on-again, off-again relationship with their neighbor. They get along, but they compete for the same things. And it's Clovis and Fresno. And the Bielefeld team beat Munster in football, German football, 4-0, which was much to the chagrin of the mayor of Munster, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, I explained the complicated at times Clovis-Fresno relationship, and he mentioned that he saw the mayor from Bielefeld, and he smiled and waved at him because they wanted soccer, and he said, Bielefeld does not exist. And so I told Jerry that story. He thought it was really funny. And I fired off a letter to the mayor of Bielefeld to find out if they're interested in
What letterhead
having...
did you use? Oh, no, too soon. Too soon. Too soon.
I sent off a letter, and if they show interest, I will bring it back to the council, and see if we're interested in that. But, it was I always enjoyed my time in Germany. This, was the end of it, with the Fresno group, I think it's gonna be fruitful. That's all I have.
Thanks, Drew. Juan?
I had the opportunity to participate with the mayor and Matthew Grundy, coordinating with Fresno Pacific University's president to sort of strategic planning, but really give them just feedback from the community on how FPU can be a better school and partner within our community. And I thought it was a great meeting. Thank you, Mayor, for inviting me to participate in that. And then we also had a committee meeting, I would call it a committee meeting, with the sort of youth commission idea that we've been wanting to hash out and work with Clovis Unified if possible. But I appreciate Carrie and Chad for making great things. I think they'll bring something back. But one of the ideas that was great was because of Founders Day, you know, Carrie made this little placemat that we can put on to restaurants so where they can do crossword puzzles and just know about Clovis with certain facts. And so that was just neat. And hopefully we can bring something back to the full council to look at, and then we can kind of discuss that formally and see if we can move some things forward to how do we get youth voices and also move for civic engagement within that demographic. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Just a couple things. I participated in a small conversation with COG and Clovis Unified on the Safe Routes to School work. And so here's my note. Can we put Safe Routes to School on the next joint meeting with Clovis Unified, either the quarterly subcommittee or maybe the full? I saw a note from Carrie, I think, about the full meeting, October. So either, I don't know when the next subcommittee is. It may not be a full board discussion, but anyway, it would be at least a subcommittee conversation on the Safe Routes to School work that COG is trying to work on, please. And then work continues on Measure C and what iteration that will come back. And we've also started the recruiting process for a new executive director for FCTA. So there's a small subcommittee of FCTA, and we met with the recruiter this morning who was hired to find a replacement for Mike Leonardo. So if anyone knows anybody who wants to be the director of FCTA and go through another Measure C, you just let us know who that is right away. Oh, wait, leave the last part out because that could be like an answer. And I just have an agenda item. I don't know how to make it an agenda item because we don't really have a protocol, but I would like to, at some point as a council, if there's interest, have a conversation about city advocacy. And what I'm curious about is a couple of things. One is, I think we've all muttered under our breath that maybe the league is, we don't always align with the league, and people have tried to start leagues, and maybe they don't really work. And so I want to just understand the league value that we get, and if it's, I don't even know what the membership costs, but I want to understand that. There's an initiative that started with, I'm not exactly sure, but I want to say small cities like Clovis, Lafayette. There's a long list. Andy, you sent me a list of that, working on a ballot initiative for 2024 to protect local control in terms of housing. And I think it's called Our Neighborhood Voices. Is that right? So if you haven't seen it, it might be worth just to take a peek. But I don't think so. I'd never heard of it. It's pretty new. We had one of yours, I don't know, a while ago. I can't remember.
So the cities down, there were some cities down south that were trying to separate from.
So I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's legitimate. I don't know if it's good for us. But I just think there's sort of we talk about it often, but I'm kind of curious about that statewide initiative. Is that something that we would want to line up? And then finally, it's been probably 15 years since City of Clovis hired its own lobbyist. But I don't know if that day is here, because it's getting harder and harder, I think, for our voice to be heard. So I just want to have a conversation about our advocacy strategy and what that looks like in light of those issues. And I don't know if there's agreement to put it on an agenda item to talk about an advocacy strategy, but I'm just curious that we all know we're falling farther behind. I don't know how to, I don't know that we might not need some extra help. Whether it's a different organization, I don't know. Whether it's a lobbyist, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I'm just curious about the topic of advocacy and would be interested in having an agenda item to talk about that if there would be interest in that.
If you can add in there even groups locally that we join where we're getting a return, one you sit on, I don't want to say anything here, but to analyze all those and say, hey, is this giving us economic impact back? And so we know we pay fees, and politically maybe it may not be the right thing to do, but it's a good time to also assess those.
Yeah, I think that's good. But I think that maybe there's opportunities that we just can't see right now. And I don't think the next 10 years is going to be any easier than the last 10.
I was just going to say, I've got a couple of the type things. They do seem to be more geared towards some of our state values. And I know there's been talk in the past about how the league economics have to actually put local chapters.
Right.
I think Mayor Fowler also has a perspective from the Central Valley. So I don't know. I just maybe I don't disagree with what you're saying at all, but at the same time, maybe we should locally legal city meetings as well.
Yeah.
Just see if it is. You know, I mean, in some direction. I know some of the issues on the safety committee on the state level aren't always right in the right direction, or the state perspective that's put forward, but some of the more.
And I think you've commented on the housing, and the board I think has gotten so big, and I don't know, is there like a regular city caucus? I mean, there's every other kind of caucus on the board. So I think it's harder and harder to get a voice if you can't line up in those smaller groups. And so I just think it'd be worth thinking about what we get out of that membership and how to make sure our voice at least gets heard. I had a call with the governor's staff here, who I didn't know he had a staff, so that was interesting. And I just tried to explain, like, it'd be great if the governor could govern regionally. Like, this is not Berkeley. We're not opposed to anything. We're not opposed to affordable housing. We're not opposed to any, I mean, we'll do it. We'll do it well. We'll do it better than anyone. But we just can't get our voice heard. And so, that's not going to change the world, but I didn't realize even that he had a staff here in the Valley, so that tells you something. So I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot. So I just say if we could have an advocacy agenda item just to talk about it strategically, and even, if we want to pursue a lobbyist. It's been a long time since we had one, but Kathy Millicent was city manager, so it goes back a ways. But was it worth it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. So anyway, if there's agreement that we could have an agenda item one day on that? Yeah? Not going to change your mind? Just kidding. Too soon. All right. That's all I have.
Supposed to do nothing.
Okay, nothing. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything again because we were so good at that. All right, so with that, now we will move into closed session. We will address the items on the agenda. We will not take action, and we thank you all for coming.